Yeah.
Aguta
Check, check, check. Okay, good.
Part of the background noise, and you blowing into the. I did. Blowing.
It's not my first time here. It's not my first time here. It's hard to find.
Check. A1. Check, check A1. Testing. Check A112.
he wanted only a tiny piece. What we can do later.
Oh, Baruchim Habayim, please. Rabbi, say sorry for my sincere apologies. Come please head over this way. The Farbrengen's going to be there afterwards. You could leave coats if you want. You could leave it on the back of your seat, or you could put it in the Ezra's Nashim. There's an empty table. I want to raise it. Please, Madrichim, please head over this way. Madrichim sounds a little. Yeah, that's what it sounds like. Yeah, yes. Rabbi Kasimov, Rabbi Chanoka. Chaim l'chaim. I think I should. It's a very special and big day, evening. I mean, for all of us, and thinking about it, it's not just celebrating a milestone. Each and every one of you, tremendous investment of koiches, time and effort. It's the beginning of a new phase, I believe, in Batim B'Yisrael and in houses, Lubavitcher houses. You should know that the bachrim that you're receiving, which is, chsanim, bachrim with a kapatim, it's like the Eshte Yaris. And the younger light, the chsanim, when they come to you, they're the most open they will ever be. And the most receptive they will ever be to standards of Kedusha. And not only in terms of what they're open to, that they're ever open to hearing on that whole subject. Once a younger man is on his own, he's mamish on his own. And when he's by you, so you not only frame it properly, in Bezos Hashem, and with our davening of the Moichet, with all the training and Alagot Zachen, I'm davening, you're davening, and we have to continuously daven. David shall schicken the richtige Werte. But depending on how much you'll keep in touch and how much you see it as a shlichus, and follow up with them, that's how much he's going to have in the deepest place, in a very, very deep place. He's going to have hashpah and have a tzir. You know, regardless of how a person runs his personal life, if he's in touch with his mashpia and he associates himself with a certain standard, you are the one that he aspires to be like, in this regard, and hopefully in much more than just that. So it's a huge achrayis and a huge chus for me to be part of facilitating that, and I look forward to facilitating beyond just, continuing the inspiration and continuing help and training and whatever we could. And Lamaisa, the shluchim in the field are each one of you. And when we get together now to celebrate this, it's a celebration of many, many neshamas that are going to be born, many Yiddish homes that will run al Yisei dat Torah mitzvah, kfi shem u'arim, as the Rebbe always reminds us, kfi shem u'arim, b'mar shabbat Torah zui Torah sachsidis. And before we hear words from the Rabbanim, I want to extend a special yishakayach to Younger Light, to Rabbi Dubov and Rabbi Yassi Rabashkin for helping additional parts of the training and ensuring Taka at Ashkafa is Visa past. If I can, I want to ask Rabbi Brian to share a few words.
Otherwise, how do you know what's a verbringen and what's not a verbringen? A good Tavach. There's a minig that Matzah Shabbos sagt man mit Hamaisa. Not a major story, but on a Kuda Punkt tonight, someone mentioned that he was present when a non-from lady came to a Rav, and she said that she doesn't keep anything, but there's one mitzvah she's very into, which is Neder Shabbos Kodesh. This guy says he was there b'Shas Ma'aseh, and she's describing how it's mamish very special for her to light Shabbos candles, and she's makbid that she looks on the calendar only when Shabbos starts. That's when she lights it, because she wants to make sure there's no taruvis of chol in her Neder Shabbos. It's purely l'shem Shabbos. This guy says that he was there. It's a modern day story. It's not a story of Psa Maisa and Zman Harizal. So he says, and the Rav told you don't know what kind of nachas you do to the Eibishter, and it's unbelievable. You took on this mitzvah, you bring light into your home. He's going on and on and on and on and on. This guy's standing there. We're talking about a shaila of skila. Skila could be. I don't know if it was Ben Hashmashus or Asham Toli. I don't know when it was exactly. Maybe she waited till it was Mama Shabbos holidays. And then he tells her, by the way, there's a thing about a certain time after the whole 20 minutes. And if you light at this time, this is because afterwards. And she's, oh, this is mamish to think with the time also. So she was very makabelit. And from then on, she started lighting properly. And Kamuvin, that started a tzina from a lot of other things. There's a whole debate, a modern day debate about a story which is brought b'Shem Harizal. It's brought in a Sefer Mishnah's Chacham from Aram Chagiz. And there's a lot of interesting stories there. Pung this week in 770, on almost all the tables, there was a pamphlet that you give it from Miftzayim, I don't know what it is. And it has that story there. Famous story with the Rav that gave a drash about Lechem Apanim. The makkah of the story is a sefer from someone who's 100 years after the Arizal. That's the only makkah that we know. And a lot of people question if the story is legit. That the Rav spoke about a mile of Lechem Apanim, that we don't have it today. And this person was very inspired. He'll bring Lechem Apanim, and he brought it. She asked his wife to prepare a special chalas. He put him to the Aron Kodesh, and 1 week the Rav was preparing his drasha. And he saw him there. I'm going to make the story bekitzer. And he saw what he was doing. He says, "Shugin, it's today. This is a terrible thing." And he says, "But it's taken. The Eibusha takes it. It's the Shamash that takes it." Now Rizal told me he's going to have to die. He took away the nachas from the Eibusha. So there's a whole controversy. What's pshat? What the Rav is supposed to tell him? If the guy's makiv kaddish and mechutz in his chayiv kaddish, he's not supposed to tell him. This is the controversy amongst the modern day authorities. And Shaul Alter, the famous Shaul Alter, says he doesn't understand something else. Gebrengt the nachas, weil gegeben the drasha der erste Mal. Anyhow, so the story that I was saying before about the nam from lady is a shtickle teretz. Of course, you're supposed to tell the person, but there's a way how you say it. After your mafli and magdal, goydel erich, that you're the one that's bringing lechem upon him every week. Then you tell him, by the way, there's a me'en bikurim, there's a inim bizmana, whatever you can tell him. And Kegvazog, why am I saying this story? Because the power of speech is an unbelievable power. We often don't realize we say something to someone, and it has effect. Hashpa. I remember as a kid, I woke up one day in, I don't know if it was 3rd grade or 4th grade or 5th grade or 6th grade. One day, there came a discussion about what happens if you talk during Psukah Zimra. And I'm remembering that my 1st grade teacher told me that if you talk about Psukah Zimra, you have to go back to the beginning. And then I was thinking, it doesn't make any sense, but that's what we learned in school. It took me a while to chapsech that the 1st grade teacher said that, because that was a way of getting the kids not to talk during Psukah Zimra. I'm not going into Dine Hefsik. It's like Simon Shechnarach Kuvdal, but now I know a bit more. But the person says something, you assume he's a person of authority, he's telling you something, obviously it's correct. And how many of us could say that a teacher told us a psavar? There was one that he told me, and I was mamish interested in dropping everything, but he told me a psa line. A kid recently told me that one of his mashpim in yeshiva told him, he's not in yeshiva anymore. One of his mashpim in yeshiva, why taka don't you go to the army? So what did the kid think? maybe Shtak could go fight in Sahel. Because that's what he was told. Whether maybe he should, I don't know. It's a separate discussion. You don't realize, you say something, you're planting ideas in people's minds. And when you're planting ideas in the area of, never mind the fact that we're Pashat Shemer and Masal people from in Yanim of Krisis, and as people in the field could tell you that we unfortunately see on a regular basis people that are Pashat Amaratzim Gemurim, even after they went to Chasna and Kala classes. So Pashat, when you set them up straight with understanding how this is so critical and crucial, it's crucial for Chaya Hayim Yom, it's crucial for having Yiddish gesunte Kinder, Begashmis, Veruchnis, Latoiv, Ulamutav, and it's as important as Shmira Shabbos and Kashrus. It's not as important, but much more. That's one aspect. But then I'm talking about the whole concept of Kedusha V'Tara, Hanhogas Habayis, Shalom Bayis, V'chulu V'chulu. It's a moidig gepul that you can have. It's not an event that we're having now. It's a beautiful sign. V'chulu V'chulu. Tonight is a night which is associated with Deidus. Pasha generations of Emes Chsidish Yiddish Kinder which are born with Kedusha V'Tara, which is, there's no greater schus than that. And like Rabbi Yezev just now said, you're catching them at a time. They're not prepared to talk about this usually. When I was a bacher and I got married, there was no such thing as a chassan teacher. There was a Efes Katseu, there was I think Rabbi Chaikin maybe was the only one that did such a thing. And if you decide to go to Cleveland, which was... So I sat and learned with another chassan, we sat and learned together. It's like people that start learning Tanya themselves. You know what that's like. And they think they understand Tanya. He's in a fight with Rabbi Chaim Volozhin. No, isn't there something about the Tzimtzum? I know something. You ever talked to... I had a guy used to come to me to learn Chassidus in Sydney. Shabbos, I told him all the time, I could give you Shabbos morning, 6 o'clock in the morning. I never learned Chassidus. No, he wanted to talk to me about Tzimtzum is Kipshuta or not Kipshuta. He wanted to become a philosopher. So they think they know already something. Basically says Chassidus. So that's what we did. I sat and learned with someone else. And then someone told me that there's a shliach that some shliach in New Jersey probably didn't even open a Kitzur Din Torah in his life. And he started reading it to me from the text that I already had from the Chavrusa I learned with. Then someone told me, but it's very important to learn about Shalom Bayis, and I have an uncle, Fitzi Lipsker, Shalom Unsalang and maybe you should talk to him about about how to run a home. So I had a session with him. And then someone told me, he spoke to a mashpia. Someone told me, amongst Bachim, we're talking, what we do. And I spoke to a guy about Reish Mem, because probably would have learned it with my Chavrusa also. And then I felt that it's very important, after I'm married, it was extremely embarrassing and uncomfortable, but the approach of the mashpia that I spoke to, I should go and ask him a question on it. A question. I had to make up a question because I knew it's a very uncomfortable subject to talk about. I'm never going to ask a question ever again to anybody about this. Once I start, I break the ice, I'm going to ask him a question. So I'll have a sprache communication. Okay, so if I asked, the guy responded. But nobody does this. Really, it's part of the system, the Mamayla Lamata, to go and approach the young man after the chasna. Say was tutzach, was herzach, and keep the lines of communication open. Hen in Shmiras Halacha Kipshuta, hen in Yanim of Kedusha V'Tara, see das is Simonei Shmem, to whatever topic it is, whatever the field is, but a person should feel, or it's in Yanim of Shalom Bayis. It's a very uncomfortable thing. One of my kids thought that he saw advertised that tonight they said they're opening it for everybody that has Shalom Bayis problems. So that's why we're all here, right? Yeah, you advertise something for people who have Shalom Bayis, how many people are going to show up, right? So the derech klal, the people that deal with it are the ones that have the problems. Isn't that how it goes? So a person doesn't come and share these kind of things. Nobody's going to come to a session if it's about Shalom Bayis. By the woman is a bit anders because you also do a cooking demonstration while you're at it and how you set up platters. So mainly, but derech you shmuggle around someone to talk a bit about Shalom Bayis. But man, it's a pure Shalom Bayis. No one's coming. When you invite that sprach and you follow up, this wasn't this group. We had it was other chassan teachers. It was before Rabbi Melber came to speak, you remember? I had a discussion with Rabbi Melber, the one that runs Taharenu. So we're talking about payment for chassan teachers. I have no idea what's in the industry. So he said that according to his hashara, you're supposed to pay a couple $1,000. Why? Because it's a lifetime job. That's the address that the person is going to go to on a regular basis. So that should be at least a good few $1,000. It's an ongoing connection. The Rebbe talks about Masayim Zamidem. The Rebbe talks about Parshas Shavua Kisisa Esroish. There's a Sich in Tavshim Mem Zayin. When the Rebbe touched up Kisisa Esroish, Pashut, we have an achrayis to lift up heads. Take a person who has already a roish and make it ufheib, machen hecher. And the way to do Kisisa Esroish, and that's the Rebbe talks about Limud HaTorah. The Oisius the Rebbe uses over there, he says that a little kid goes over to his father and he asks his father, "Wo ist dein Kisisa Esroish, Tate? Ich sehe, du bist vernummen mit große Sachen." And the Rebbe lists from Eilu Dvarim Shelem Shir, from the Braisa that we say, Mishnah Braisa that we say in Brichas HaTorah in the morning. Achnos Erchim, Bikecholim, Hava Sholem. Aber in derselbe Mishnah Tate, du allein sagst, was Talmud Torah keneged kulam. Talmud Torah, heint ist dir gesagt, was Talmud Torah, nächten ist dir gesagt, morgen ist es gesagt, wo gewinnt es Sisa Sreich, Sonntag Paschke Sisa, Montag Paschke Sisa. That's Be'erech Pachas Yeser, the signal of that Sikha. The ability to take a Rosh, someone who's a Rosh, who's becoming a Rosh in his family also, and to take and make a Kisisa. This is ein l'shayr, the murdige hashpada you have. There's a manal of in Bistrivka in Melbourne, Mullah Gurevich. He used to work in selling women's clothing. That's what he did for a living. And he told me, how did he make a career change? He said, one day, he's sitting and thinking to himself, so what am I? I'm a guy that makes sure that women have beautiful clothing. It's like a great zach. So I feel it like a shtickle tchanis Ezra. Then he should go around and sell samim, yeah. It's also negated to the field of Taharas Habayis. But he realized what kind of impact is he having, and it Pashut hit him. He got a lot of answers to the Rebbe about chinuch v'chulu, but I guess that didn't hit him. And then he went into the industry. He says, now I Pashut make changes in people's lives. So to set up a home in Yisrael, the way it should be, this is a meidige schus. So a schus is an achrayis, is mezakes arabim. Der Rebbe soll helfen, so matzlich sein mit der Vedas HaKodesh und sein, als der Rebbe will.
So a big part of why Bechlal there is training, I'm saying, as we Efnen Svar, and everybody has the Fiyerach, you know, Geklibben and the Heubner Junge Light, so you have a Chsidische Ashkafa. So, you know, why is there training? And one of the reasons is because to apply our Edelkeit to these halachas and to these nyanim, the way you present them, regardless of who you are, that's the way it's taken. There's a lot in the presentation. In the way it's given, that's the way it's taken. Which means that sometimes there's, you know, things that you and each one of us, you know, we're Shana V'Shilish, and I'm saying in good Zach and good and even good things we do, we take them for granted. So we, you know, but a bacher when he puts on film there shtemol, and that will guide the person that puts on film with him by putting the whole minig as benemtem zum Rebben to put on film, the way vi mishtelt him avek as a farter. So al derech zeh, the presentation of the halachas is very, very, very important, and this is one of the reasons for me personally, besides handpicking all the younger light that are here, the fact that many of the younger lights sitting here are also talmidim of Rabbi Kasimov in learning Hilchos Nida outside of the program of whether it's in Koil Rabbanei Chabad, whether it's in L'man Yilmedu, whatever it is, it's mamash roiv rubai of this course are belav hachi learning with Rabbi Kasimov, which that itself speaks volumes to the tayarkeit of these halachas, and therefore the gebenster, the younger light that are going to be learning by you. When the tayarkeit of the halachas by you, when it's neger enough for you to invest hours upon hours, if it's Koil Rabbanei Chabad, or regardless the money putting in to learn these halachas, the halachas that are conveyed, even if it could be conveyed by someone else, the tayarkeit, that is how he's going to keep the halacha. So without further ado, I want to be mechabed Rabbi Kasimov, my partner in being miyased Machon Taharas Habayis, seeing a problem and dealing with it. Yeshikach Rav Kasimov.
So first of all, Rishus, Rabbi also Rabbi Greenberg was also my teacher, my chassan teacher, so I have to ask Rishus before speaking. So, first of all, it's a big milestone, and it's not something to be looked upon derech agav. This is a real simcha. And I'll just build off what Rabbi Brain said, Rabbi Zevich mentioned, that your tafkid is probably the most important tafkid in building Jewish homes. Why is that? As was already mentioned, you have many people that go to future review series, v'chulu, and what are they always doing? They're always comparing back how they originally learned it. My chassan teacher taught me like this. My kala teacher taught me like that. This itself shows you years and years down the road, the impact that one share, 5 sessions, 10 sessions, whatever it is, how strongly that impacted the entire house. Now I wanted to speak about a little bit something nice of a pile, that there's 2 ways of how you can look at it. One mahalach is, you teach, and goodbye. Let them figure it out. You give them a reshim of rabbanim they can call, goodbye. We finished, and that's very nice. That's one mahalach, and it could be it works, it could be it doesn't. But there's another mahalach in L'chaira, Lanius Dainti, I think this is the right mahalach to take, is there's no such thing. Once they're after the chasana, who did they break the ice with originally? Not with the Rav they're going to be calling the next morning. They originally broke the ice with you. They were discussing very personal things with you. If it's, unfortunately today it's very common that you have very unique cases, they're not so unique anymore. The norm is unique, and people who are not unique are the minority today. Today everyone comes with a package. And the first time, very possibly in their life, that they're actually opening up to somebody is to the chassan teacher themselves. Sometimes they won't open up. Sometimes it'll be after the 3rd session, the last session, v'chulum. The hashpah that you have on this future younger man and this balcher is you have no idea. And it has to be done right. What does it mean? What does it mean to do it right? It doesn't mean, if he's going through a hard time, you drop everything, you're matter v'chulu, and then that's it, everything's okay. You just make sure she goes to the mikveh. That's not the pshat. The pshat is chanoich l'nar al pidarke, that you have to be madrich him on his level. You are the one who knows this chassan probably better than anyone else. Maybe his mashpia as well, but maybe even deeper than the mashpia, because who said that he spoke these topics with his mashpia? You know what's going on, right? You know where he's holding, and you can be mashayr where he could be holding in the next 5 years, 10 years of a chulu. Your job is a big job. Your job is to take somebody who's holding here and build him, not just teach him, build him to Hashem with the time to make it up. What does this mean? It means Pasha, you teach him. You relate to him. This is hard for you? Okay, let's try to find a practical aid. So that's why it costs thousands of dollars, as Rabbi Brain said, because it's taking a lot of time. But you Pasha to recognize where he is. You say, okay, I understand, you're telling me this is too hard for you. Let's work together. Let's find a practical way, a practical solution for it to be able to work. You're not holding here. Let's call together a Rav and find a solution for you. This itself is a very important thing. That after the chasna, obviously, not every single shaila can be passed by a chassan teacher. But it's something that requires pashat guidance from a Rav, a Pesach who can actually answer a shaila. Shaila is a pshat that it's actually not so clear cut. There's tzedadim l'kana, and you need a achra, you need a psak. A very, what's been happening more and more l'achreina, especially by the kalas, it's also by the chassan teachers themselves it started happening, is that you actually call the Rav together with your Talmud. What do you do? What do you accomplish by that? First of all, you see that the Rav is not so scary. Whenever I give a shir to chassanim, I always ask, how many people can raise their hands and say, I asked a shaila over 10 times in my life? So let's say there's a room of 10 people, maybe 1 or 2 raise their hand. What does this show you? They have no idea what it means, the musuk of asking a shaila. Now, all of a sudden, what are you going to do? You're going to throw them into the waters by themselves. And all of a sudden, you expect them to start asking shaylas, to be comfortable, v'chullah, to make it easy. Okay, with some people, they're excited about it. Wow, what a chayis, finally I have an opportunity to be able to speak to the Rav. That's if you're lucky. But the reality is, most likely, that's not the norm. So one practical eitzah b'neisiv to what we were saying is Pashat. It's very kedai to do. Very, very kedai to do. Help the chosin ask their first shaila. Break the ice with them. If they feel uncomfortable, find an excuse to find a shaila. Oh, this is a shaila. If you want, I'll make myself available. Let's call it up right now. Or whenever it works for you, v'chulu, let's do it together. This is going to ensure that when the chosin has a shaila, he actually will call. Either he's going to call you and you'll do it's going to put more work on you. Or they can call directly to the Rav. And Bashgacha Pratis Mamish this Mitzvah Shabbos, I had a text message, a WhatsApp from somebody that said, really, I don't really keep Nida. I don't really ask Shailas. I do what's easier for me. I ask sometimes, I figure it out, I don't, v'chulu. Right now I'm trying to get pregnant, so I'm asking. You don't want to get to such a matziv. You want that it should be, the yisoid should be nice and healthy, melechantchila, so that when it comes to any shaila, they should not be paskening for themselves. Because what happens if they pasken for themselves? I'm sure Harabrain can tell you from experience many, many stories that they end up either being mekel when they should not be, or being machmer when there's no reason to be machmer, right? Even if somebody's able to open up a sefer, but they don't really understand what's going on. They don't understand the yesodus of the halacha to be able to actually come out with a proper psak. So, two very, very important things to Pasha to walk away with, practical things. The halachas you learn, the shalom bayis you learn, hilchas reishmem you learn, v'chulu. Two very, very practical things is, these are your talmidim. Look at them as your talmidim, as your own children. Because don't look at them the way they are now. Look at them in 20 years from now and they're going to be making their own chasnas. They're going to be, you have no idea what kind of schus and achrayas you have. These are your talmidim, these are your children, beruchnis, your tatum Torah. This is you. And number two, and act upon it. Don't just feel good about it. Act upon it. Treat them as such. Treat them and teach them as such, and follow up with them as such. And second of all, this second nakuda that we mentioned, Pashat, to help them build a kasher with a Rav. Because on a practical level, for most people, it could be embarrassing. And it could be they'll come back to you, and it could be they won't. But at least you did your part to be able to make it easier, so they have at least the alley of where to take their shilas to.
I think part one can come to an end. We'll give, first of all, again, a very, very special shakar to Rabbi Brian that spearheaded the Yesoid of Taharas Habayis and has been Lachi Yazr, Lachi Samach, and guided us ad haloim. And we're very lucky to have in our shchuna Rav, like all the Rabbanim in our shchuna, but Rabbi Brian making sure in so many areas in the shchuna that they don't just get dealt with, but they flourish. And this one is one of the very special areas that has helped us reach this point. I'm going to call out the names of all those that we're going to give presented to Uda to, and I am going to put a fit on there are some of those that are receiving Udas that have not yet completed the full halacha review. Those will not go officially online yet until that part is completed, but should be shortly for all of us, because Baruch Hashem, we're all pretty much there. So begin by Ha'avrech Rabbi Sharon Ziv Weiss. Yes, we'll afterwards stand up with a picture, so I don't know if we need pictures right now at the beginning. Harav Ashanayam Webb. Shkoyach. Rav Mendel Machkin. Rav Yitzchak Chanoka. Rav Yitzchak Meir Einstein. Rav Yitzchak Isaac Dubov. Rav Nissen Brennenson. Rav Levi Belanov. Rabbi Reinitz is nicht da. Rav Yisrael Noach Lipsker. Rav Vogel. Rav Vogel is nicht da. Oh, sorry. Rav Zalman Vogel. think we covered. Oh, how to write this? 1 second. Rav Yosef Yitzchak Rubashkin. Rav Yosef Yitzchak writes this. We could head over this way. I guess we'll move all the whole table frontwards, and we'll take it together. Okay, what do you say? This thing is pulled us in. Huh? With us, for sure. Mendel is over here, special for bringing together. This part is just the normal part. If you can make your way over here, Rabbi Chaikin shared with us a few words for this event. I guess when we're sitting around the ring, we'll present
They recognized you, and then they said Webb, so that made me sure. This Are they going back here?
Ah, but the guy is from the guy is
I'm figuring out.
יוכלו לראות את הזה, מה שאומר.
We'll figure it out. For this part? Until you guys do anything. I didn't know it was gonna
It's not gonna be honest.
When I come down, every once in a while, that's what should do it.
So they need it for the videos.
I don't know. You're leaving. That's what you're saying?
Yeah.
Okay, didn't come through.
You do that?
There's video. Do you not? Give me your phone. That's what I'm trying to do.
Where did I put it?
אמא, אמרתי להם קודם כל ככה?
אוקיי.
אז אני עושה את זה ככה. זה רקורדים.
No, I'm saying, I'm just telling you. Okay, I figured it out. Yeah.
You want to start?
I can play it. I'll play one, then I'll press, then I'll play the second.
Okay. So let's just play the first and the rest I'll share on the group, okay?
Okay.
Rabbi Isa, if I could turn your attention for a moment to the words of Rabbi Chaikin. Rabbi Chaikin is one of the Rabbanim of our Machon. He shared brachas and some thoughts. I think we're only going to play the first one now, and the rest I'll share on the group because it's
Sure.
Giving me the schus to have a part in such a holy night, such a holy cause, Taharas Hamishpocha, which is all about Kedusha Habayis, Kedusha HaKadosh Baruch Hu. And we all know what the Rebbe says in Hayom Yoim. Yizboyin Abozeh. Think that you could save Yidden. How much that means to you. And you should praise Hashem for the great schus that you could do things for Taharas HaMishpocha. Here we have a group of madrichim of Yiddish homes, leaders of Yiddish homes. It's a tremendous nachas ruach to the Rebbe. It's a tremendous schus. So, to add a few practical points, every time when you teach Muhammad, Magid Shir, a madrich isn't a one-time goal. You said the shir and finished, you did your job. You always need to be in apnimius, meaning to say, to continue to be madrich. And here we come to a very, very sensitive point. Madrichim like to say, my door is open, my
Do the second one. Yeah, do the second one.
Second part. All right, so sorry, people. I like a bet. Sorry.
You can play it that way. It's also fun.
Hold on, technical glitch.
understand you're dealing with somebody that is at least
Sorry, back when we
and if you take it to heart, chas v'sholem, this could have an effect that would weaken your cheshek, your enthusiasm to go out and teach. No. Understand you're dealing with somebody that is at least 20 years younger than you. And you want that person to understand what you understand. You want that person to feel exactly what you feel. There's an age difference. So if the person expresses something which chas v'sholem you feel he should have appreciated me more, that would have been right if the person would have been in your level. He would have been in your age. He would have understood what you understand. He would have had experience like you have experience. You could say he should value my time. He should value my koiches. But he doesn't understand that. He doesn't understand. There was an elder chassid who was teaching people, from people, Mikorovim, and he started to ask him some questions about Chassidus, about Rebbe, which really got him upset. And he managed to get to heart. So they say to him, we have a hard time talking to you, you're getting angry on us. So he wanted to explain that you're asking such stupid things. And he started to say, you versteht doch nicht, you don't understand. So the young man said to him, if we don't understand, don't be angry with us. If you realize that we don't understand, there's nothing to be angry on us. The same thing over here also. Don't be so upset why they didn't appreciate you. They don't understand. Chas v'sholem. When you see bisi oichel, when you see a child throws food on the floor, you'll be what? You'll be broken-hearted. You'll teach him. You'll guide him. But you're relaxed because you realize that he doesn't know the value of food. So understand, you are the madrich and they are the mekablim. If you are the mashpia, the madrich, the teacher, and they are the mekablim, they are not in the same level as you. We are now in the days of Purim. Achashverosh said, I'm going to make a feast and I'm going to make everyone happy. HaKadosh Baruch Hu says, I can't make everybody happy. I give a rain. Those who have fields are very happy. But those who are hoilchei drochim, oivrei drochim, those who are going on the road, those who are traveling, they didn't have paved highways like we have today, they don't want the rain. So I can't satisfy everybody, and you claim that you'll satisfy everybody. Everybody, I'll show you, I'll give you a Haman, Lahavla, I'll give you a Mordechai. Let's see if you can make happy both of them at the same time. The Nikuda is, don't expect that everyone will be happy with you. It's a good goal, but don't fall apart if somebody complains on you, to you, and about you. Because that's a derech in life. Don't expect that everybody would agree with you.
I think the last two I'll share on the group, so we
Okay.
can start with Rabbeinu.
Sure.
Shkoyach Jacob. Yaakov. Going very easy at first.
Shabbos verbringt, die Juden Shabbos also zusammen. We went for something with the Shabbos, it'll be Friday night, verbringen wir das, Friday night we made house, and he verbringt with us, like Machon Taharas
Coffee.
Steht in it says in Klal Chinuch V'Adroch. He says the difference between a madrich and a mechanech. I don't remember the exact lotion. It's madrich, mechanech. It comes out, it's be'erech, the difference between a magid and a mashpil. What's the difference? And the megazin like this. So he says like this. He says, so da ein of us kommt learning Torah, coming to teach somebody something. Come to teach somebody something, it's a tremendous chus. When you teach somebody something, then it's a really big chus. But helft nicht is nicht mazik. I don't remember exactly how madrich, mechanech, the loshen dort is, when somebody handelt mit der Nefesh von einem Menschen, geht nicht helfen, geht mazik sein. And Dafki says over there, he says you start in chinuch, so you start off, it's talking about chinuch of younger menschen, but he says you start off with the schmutzige Sachen, and then eventually you have to move. The Nekudas Advarim is that heutige Zeiten, it's not over a poshet, it's alle uns zusammen, that you can't look at a cloud. You can't einreden a few years ago that there's a musik of meisters, and there's a musik of a cloud, and people who are in the meisters, and bochrim, and in the light, that are part of Mizgeres. Today, there is, on some level. But really, it's mamish, it's every single Shom. We can't wissen, was tut sich bei ihnen. Right? Somebody, you come to him, you're learning with somebody, learning Ma'amar Chassidus, you're teaching him something, you're teaching him Matzah. Now he is where he is today, his nisenis, the world he's going to be in, his nefesh. There's a lot that this person is going to be going through. To make a... Today, as he sagt man heint, and I think it's true, man sagt heint as a chassidische bocher, and the same thing, an emes chassidische younger man is on some level a Baal Mesiras Nefesh b'pod. Because there's many nisenis. So, if we're talking about a younger man, was geht a bocher, was geht chasna holen, so it's a big deal. This moment by him in Zayin Nefesh, it's a big deal. So I think einer von den Nekudas was that Bochum in the light, when they're going to get chasna, struggle with, is you go through yeshiva. Okay, so you learn Chassidus. So you learn Mamorim, Chudi Eloi, Chudi Tato. Beide die. Chudi Eloi, Chudi Tato. Ehud Levade, Vein Zulose, it's verbracht. Derech Agav, maybe this is the next Mach. Sido, I mean, you've only just done in Kronitz, I'm sure from the Higer, very married. But a lot of times you get a call from a younger man. Also, tut mamish weh. It's very, very painful. Why? Because you see a bocher, when he was a bocher, hat gehat, it wasn't Sidaze. There's Sidah, there's a bocher who comes into yeshiva who you can tell right away has a shvacha nefesh. You can tell he's a shvacha nefesh, he hat a shvacha tzait, he has big nisyanis. Fine. So lechatchila in yeshiva you deal with him that way. Then you have mitzuyonim. Bochrim will lechatchila right from the beginning, they go to kep, and they can go to learn, they have chassidische neshamas, they krieg harein, they verbringen ischen. We learned. Then you have in the middle, which is a big, big number. What does the middle mean? The middle means a good bocher, a fine bocher. He comes to say the chassidus, comes every day on time. He learned of the minor. He learns the nigler because that's Shmiras Hastorim. He knows. Did he actually hoter gehorget hat gedacht wat chassidus van daven? Hoter you know, did he learn Krish Mishal Mitte? Hoter no, he's one of the bocher. Fine. But he has a Mizgeres, he has a Mashpia, at least officially. He has who to speak to. He's in a Mizgeres. You get a phone call from him 2-3 years down the line, 4 years, 5 years. So he's not it. So a schwache bocher, when hat gasten alle wissen er schwach. So lechatchila sai mishtatem avekazeh, and then eventually there's if somebody's mamish falling, so then there's organizations, there's things he can turn to. If he's a earnest chassidish younger man, either goes on shlichus, and I get avek, and he's a fire, or you find seine Chaverim, he has his Kvutze, he sits together, mit verbringt his man, he comes into 770, hat mit was lebt. You get a phone call from a younger man, 4 years, 5 years later, he's married. And he didn't speak to a mashpia, to a chassidus shari, to anything, because he didn't in yeshiva either. For 5 years. Derweile, every morning he wakes up, his wife wants him home with the kids, as the kids grow. He knows he has to go to a minyan, he tries every once in a while. Noch a minyan, if he's, you know, an erle, mamish an erle, he'll sit down and learn, you know, epis noch an davenet. Maybe Chitas Rambam, he'll manage to be on his way to work. But he comes home, you know, he's getting mutsheter, comes home, has to help with his wife with the kids. Geht schlafen, steht auf morgen, also ist eine ganze Woche. Shabbos kommt in die Schule. Kommt also Shabbos morning down for the help in the shul, right? So he has whatever. He comes Shabbos morning, he comes to the davening. After davening, maybe he sits by the kiddush, he says, "L'chaim bin chamayim," comes to Tzolef, and that's it. As a younger man, you think about it for a second. This younger man needs much more than the Chassidish younger man, because be'emes he has a meridik rotzen. He wants to do well. And will sein Chassidish. He's not. He doesn't be'etzem have a big Yetzer Hara. He doesn't want to do anything wrong. But he doesn't have anything was verbindt mit Gettlichkeit geseder. He doesn't have a Seder Chassidus in the morning. He can't. It's too hard for him. Alavai usually get the minyan every day. So he gets to the minyan, he davens, he goes to work, he comes back home. Wie lang can Eishalten as a younger man? How long can you manage like that? Nicht mitzad Ashveri Yetzer Hara, how long can you manage with that kind of a life? So, Elamai, Ebrah hat a shtickl mashpia in the shul. Was, was gives a sheikh sidis. And he encourages the younger like to come. It's mamish, this is a derech hagam, but it's mamish chiyunas. If he has somebody who was laden down the younger light, sits a Tuesday night, laden down alamin, and then he sagt sein Geschmack in Gort. Shabbos in the morning, he gives a sheikh sidis. And after davening, he sagt Chever l'chaim. And his man is man im Tag lot. Kommt sie auf Nissen, Chever lo machen, sie auf Nissen zusammen. Let's do something with Shvat. Lo mer alle nehmen doch lot. So then there's a shtickle Chever. It's mamish. It's not so. It's nefoshes. It's anyway. But so this bocher, goes through, one of the things that happens very, very often is, he learned a lot of chassidus. He learned Igikumen, and he learned. He learned, and he learned das, he learned that. The shaila is, hat verstanden? Hat genommen the nekuda that he's being told? Basically, if he went to yeshiva, what was he told? Through all the memorim and through all the farbrengens and everything. He was told, Azer is an Hashem HaKadosh. They came down into this world to durchführen a kavon. And because of that, everything that he does now is, mitatzmus eisof, amshochas atzmus, v'chulu, v'chulu, v'chulu. If he understood it, the next shlav is, now that you're not a bocher anymore, the etzig is chasnav, so it's the next shlav in the Rebbe. Which means that even though you're going more into Gashmis, and even though now you're going to be coming home, etc., etc., really, das alles get lichkeit. So if he got the point, which we all know is difficult for everybody, it's hard for anybody to come from being a bocher sheyodin, from the bocher sheyodin, to be a younger man. It's difficult. It's Vizokt Amol. I heard this from Shlomo Zarchi. I don't know who it was about, but he said that there was a certain mashpia that Vizokt du text nicht. He said, why not? He says, because deine junge Leid, deine bocher werden zu bequem, zu schnell. You see them, Mama, we're 2 weeks after the Chassan, and we're sehr bequem. He says, etwas nicht. He said, darf sein. Der Stecker nimmt das Zikotay. He said at the same time, he said, mit Vizokt, was a Reihe, as a Mashpir, Matzliach, when I fragt my young man, what's your favorite food? 2 years after, he asked not him, the wife, what's your husband's favorite food? 2 years after he gets married, she goes, no. But anyway, but the Kudas Advarim is, and your man at Chasana, really, I learned the Siches, I learned the Mamorim, but if not, then there's a disconnect. In other words, I'd gelernt Chassidus, because he had to learn Chassidus. And he learned it, and he had verstanden, his man as man get, hat von Shir, hat verstanden, as do, in Sof, do kach v'kach, and in Male Kalam, do kach v'kach, and Zero Kalam, had verstanden. But how to take that, into Kumen Ha'eim, Shabbos nach Mittag, from bringing with the Mishpocha, how to take that to start dealing with the new Nisyonos that happen after he gets married, and how to be in your man, Mr. Daf design, sometimes is very, very, very difficult, especially since there's no way to know what it is before. There's no way to prepare for it properly. So the only thing you could do is make sure that they say there's any gesund, right? Well, was kemeton to a bocher? There's no way the bocher can't prepare for it properly. So Megitim do say this that he should be able to have. I think Siddha, any little beard, we know as the Shaila was a Bochum friend that asks this question all the time. Was hab ich von der und der mein Mercedes? Meila, I understand, I learned, everybody's different. Some Bochum will tell you in a scholar, other Bochum friend in Avedi, you can tell who the Nefesh from Bochum is. One Bochum will tell you, Meila, ich verstehe, you're learning Samach Vov, verstehe, the mile of the Mitzvahs, I understand. Another Bach will tell you, Melech, learn up some Maimer Aveda, verstehe ich. Okay. But we learned up some Maimer Chassidus, that it was read in Ak, Atik, Arich, was hab ich von them? Okay, so there's many answers to this question. One of the Yisodis is, was mer Gleib Male, is that every Maimer Chassidus, I saw once the Rebbe told somebody about Tracht Chassidus van Damen. So he asked the Rebbe, which Maimer should you think? And the Rebbe told him, it can't say any Maimer Chassidus. There's no specifics. Amol hat mir gesagt, Mashpim, vielleicht reden, und Tracht Chassidus van Damen, you should take Eter, you should take, wie ist das, Achashalti. Mamorim is saying Male Kalam. Here the Rebbe says, anything you learned, but the word is, any Maimer Chassidus, if it's durchgetracht, changes a person's mindset, changes a person's hakor. Because every Maimer Chassidus, vi nit vi, a person who wakes up in the morning is a Berei Chadosha. By am Welt is Tevis Mokim. That's the fact. You wake up in the morning, he's going to geschlafen. What the Maimer Chassidus is going to tell you, whichever Maimer Chassidus is going to learn, the Yisoid and the Hanoch of that Maimer is verkehrt from the Balabatisha Hanoch. He woke up in the morning, his Era Metzies. And the Maimer, vi nit vi, the Maimer stellt weg, the Eberst is the Metzies. The Eberst is the Memes. So on some level, and that has an impact on the whole day. Kudus Advarim is one always bringing that verbringen mit a bocher. You can't. Sometimes I'm sure with the Shurim and there's a lot of times, especially if you're talking to a chassan, and I'm sure this was part of the discussion. There's a lot of things you can't get into as a chassan. A lot of details, a lot of things was mitonish reden, was medafnish reden, v'chulu v'chulu. So you're hoping that the chassan will come back 6 months later, and wird sein MSD, und wird sagen the memes, and wird sagen Vorhal. And even then, it says edel, and redt wegen a paar folk. But the one thing was every younger man, every bocher could have and needs to have is a hakore in the Reichkeit and the oimek of what he's about to do. Because the Metzias Advarim is a poshti younger man. If he knows, if he has a hanoch, that to get married is a mitzvah von der Ebersten. Und der Eberste gefindt sich mit dem in Zimmer. And that Gashmis is Getlichkeit. How he's going to translate that, we don't know. He's going to have a Yitzhahara? Of course he's going to have a Yitzhahara. Is he going to manage 10 years down the line with his kids? Nobody knows. We don't know who he's going to be. The one thing is, if he doesn't know that, if he doesn't have that Hakore, if he doesn't realize that if he looks at this as another technical aspect of life, it's again a little bit of derech hagam. You speak to Bochum today, cook. Man sagt allemal, man hört mal spielen an Yeshiva. You think, if der Eingeber geht reden mit Bochum in Davon und wegen, alle wissen das. Geht reden wegen Davon und geht wegen Glenn Chassidus. And then, man hört mal reden mit Bochum, wird man reden wegen Dov, al Dov, al Dov. Wie ist der Kultus? But there's a lot of things that are Gerim. You get used to speaking to Bochum about things that are very Gerim Agmas Nefesh. I think one of the things today, B'chlal, this is Akdomet. B'chlal that Bochum struggle with, outer Bochum befrat, more than younger Bochum, he's very big. Always makes love der Welt. In the Mega Zizog. In other words, a younger Bochum kommt in Yeshiva, I'm a Masifta Bochum, das bin ich. I'm here to learn. I have Shminas Asdorim, I have Kabbalah Seil, I have to learn the Eibishter's Teil. I'm a Tomim. Okay. Comes to Shiva Gdela, hopefully halt sich noch. He comes to 770, officially, so Amalek Zeitnik, when the Rebbe, alle Sichers, the Rebbe gesagt, 770 Wochen, right? We get to the Chuppah, and we get to Shuss. But practically speaking, by that time, many Bochum are figuring themselves out. They're figuring out their own lives. They're deciding if they want to get married, when they want to get married, how they want to get married, who they are, what's they sein, what's they von Tamfai Chasana. It happens a lot. So it comes, the ärgste Sache, a Bocher wird sagen, ich halte schon bei Chassan. Doch erst, darf nicht halten bei Chassan, darf Chassan noch mal dem Stück geheißen. But a Bocher who doesn't, he comes and he says, hat Chassan, if he doesn't know, if he's doing it as a hemshech of his life, if he's doing it because, why not? Or he's doing it because it's sakonas nefoshes mamash. Because we get the race halten. We wissen doch alle, it's not a simple thing. Mit am Wall so dann eine Szene, ist eine Welt. Die alle Sachen sind gehalten freier, most of them are not going to be there anymore. So Sachoiv Kodesh, at their Bocher, which was what he was given in Tim Chetzbim from the first day he came. He should know he's a shliach. He should know is a chosid for him. He should know that the whole Indian of Chassan and Be'etzim is a shlichus. And the whole thing is to bring in Getlichkeit of the Welt. And if he has that Yisoid, then for two things. Number one, they were speaking before when I came in, the Rabbanim were saying, you'll make sure he has a kesher with the Rav. Zedom, if ich sind vielleicht sorgen, wegen der Chaim Chaim. Chassidim used to say about the Sefer Chofetz Chaim. But that's not allein gemeise. When Chofetz Chaim wrote a Sefer, so he sent his Gabbai to the Rebbe Hashatz. So Vakum and Askom. Right, so he came to Lubavitch, and he had Yifun Achosid, and he said, "Wo the Rebbe?" He said, "What do you need?" He says, "I have a sefer. I want to Vakum Askom for the sefer." So he says, "What's for a sefer?" And I say, "What's for a sefer?" A sefer Lashon Hara. He says, "A whole sefer Lashon Hara." Anyway, all Ma'arichas, the Gemaise came to Rebbe Ashach. But Chassidim said that nicht Chas v'Shalom nicht gehalten, but there's a reason for was by Chassidim is Chavetz Chaim nicht angenommen. Why? It says because to write a sefer that says that you're not allowed to speak Lashon Hara is one line. Also, L'daber Lashon Hara al Chaveri. You want to add another couple of lines also about Meitzah Shemran, about another couple, fine. About Rechilas. But it's a few lines. First of all, my ganze sefer. Ganze sefer, when we make it. Right? So the whole sefer is when you're allowed to. When we cook tarai, they'll say the stacking. The whole sefer is about when we make, when it's mutter. If somebody loves somebody else, will sein Teve, wird nicht reden Lashon Hara. Unless he has no choice. Unless a Poshet Zed, this is L'tzeref. The only way he's going to speak Lashon Hara is that again still hate reden mit jenem because there's no choice but daf meratem. If he doesn't care about him, hat a sefer full mit Teve. Because he's going to find everything he's going to say. It's L'tzeref, it's this, it's that, it's the other. Anyway, Nekudas Advarim is that the Eintige Zeiten, besides for the halacha chelik, and besides for the practical chelik, which is obviously again Mefoshes Mamish, Yesh Loimar, if we have a nefesh in our hands who is about to start his life, which we all know means Erech Yom Sham Tevis. I mean, this is him, seine Kinder, seine Kindskinder. Und kommt rein, Aida Tzadik, Abocher Tzadik, okay, good. Erzählt man ihm, was wissen sein, was steht in Allah and fight. But if it's a Bocher that we see, if we can get him, and when Bochum come to him, they understand this is a concept that they don't know. Obviously, every Bocher needs to be spoken to on his level, or whatever. If there's a group, if there's a Bocher, it has to be spoken to on his level. But if he's listening, und wir können ihm geben nicht nur die Metzies, the Halacha, but the Nekuda, that he is a Shliach from the Rebbeinu. That he is coming right now. This is where Shlichus starts from. What happens? A Bocher kommt rein in Timchet Mimim, and we learned them mit dem Chassidus. Why all of those years of Timchet Mimim, what are they for? As a Zomach and David Tachtem, I heard from Chassidus Shahid, he said, that the whole Indian of Dir B'Tachtem, the whole Timchet Mimim tut man gar nicht auf von Elamas. The Bocher doesn't do anything. Why? Man verbringt mit den Bocherim, was ist Dir B'Tachtenim, and how do you translate to a Bocher was Dir B'Tachtenim? When he eats, there's a lesson L'Shem Shamayim. Right? Hat doch nicht kein Dalle Damas. Wo ist Dir B'Tachtenim? And the man nimmt Dalle Damas. He takes his house, and kommt to einen Stuhl, and he starts to, he sits there every single night. Und kommt heim und so da ein Mensch, another person who lived their own lives for many years and is a makabel, will hadden von ihm, was gläubt in, but he has to be clear about it, he has to... so, if he knows that he now has an achrais, as a yid, as a chassid in this world, to take a daladamas, take 4 walls, and to turn it into Dir B'Tachtenim, to turn it into the Rebbe's Ashtur. Then, whatever he does, even if eventually, it's difficult, but he has that Yisod. If need, is Sakonas Nefesh. So anyway, L'chaim. I think the first Nekuda is that it's a lot more than just the Halacha and the Heintige Zeit and the Frat. Again, you're talking about a Bocher, he went before he would, the father was at Chasnegat, he doesn't know exactly. The main thing, you read with a Bocher, you ask him, a 22-year-old, was tust du jetzt? He's going to go work. Why? He wants to make money. Why? Whatever, when he gets married, he should have money. He fragst him, so why don't you do it the other way around? Get married first, and then go work. Right? Whatever. What? No, the Kudas Advarim is the answer to that is, but if you fragst him, du weißt, du bist a Bocher hat a Teich. Behem ist von 18 davon Chasna, right? A Bocher hat a Teich. The reason for us is to learn a Tater. It's like a Bocher, every Shlav and every Matzav in life has a Teich, has a Metzis. Wer bist du? For us bist du da. let's do this, let's do that. Mizdof harasiba. Mizdof harasiba, the mitzias, it brings Yer Shamayim, it brings... Anyway, l'chaim, l'chaim. Ay da da da, ay da da da, ay 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 da da, ay da da Shilas reflect alamoles. Again, I don't know the image of how deeply, I was speaking about before about being connected to the younger man, not just as a chosn teacher, but be connected to the man. Eine von den Sachen, was man sieht sehr klar, has an impact. Hat eine Pole erfahren. If a person asks a shayla was fragen allemaal. A person is a mugbal, right? A person, you can be a mashpia, you can be a rov, you can be. A person is a mugbal. So mela rov, if you ask the rov a shayla, So you know how's the Rav going to answer the Shaila? He's going to look into Shulchan Aruch, where it speaks about this Nakuda, and he'll look into where the Rav speaks about this Nakuda, where in Torah statement speaks about this Nakuda. He'll answer in the Shaila. You know, it's coming where it's coming from in Halacha. Es kommt später Shailas in Machon Taharas Habayis, es kommt Shailas in Taki Achsidis, es kommt Shailas in Hanhoge. And fragt da Shaila, right? So see, sometimes you can get an able Shaila. An able Shaila in Hanhoge, an able Shaila in Taki Achsidis. And so on the one hand, the Shaila is an Edel Shaila, and it's obviously, B'chlal, every Shaila, obviously, we have to take as it's a very specific Shaila. It's a specific Shaila based on the person. But you can't say, on das weiß man doch alle, yeah? You can't not answer the question. You can't say, Amol, B'chlal, das darf man wissen sein, Amol kannst du mich schicken zu Rav, ich nicht. It's better to tell him, I'll call you back, you call the Rav yourself. Because Lav Dafki is going to ask the Rav. If he's asking you, sometimes you see somebody's asking you a Shaila, and it's very difficult for him to ask the Shaila. He's only asking you because you have a kesher with him. And if you tell him, ask somebody else, he's probably not going to ask somebody else. Not only that, he's not going to ask you anymore. Because, so, you have wissen sein. Sometimes it's darf kein Indien sagen, fragen Harav. If there's a person that has to Yirah Shamayim, you tell him, ask her up. Sometimes darf allein sagen, okay, let me get back to you. And then you call her up yourself, you ask him the Shaila. Fine. But, a mensch fragt das Shaila. So, how do you answer the Shaila? So I think one of the things that's a very, very Yesodis the Nakuda is, first of all, for ourselves. So even for ourselves, how do you answer a Shaila? And the answer is, I once heard this word, somebody ever asks you a Shaila, you find where in Torah does it speak about this topic. So the fact is, you have to answer the question based on your own experience. You have to ask the question based on how you know this person. You have to daven some Eberstein, so something right? Because it's not given the fushes. But when somebody asks you a question, instead of just, you answer based on your own experience or whatever, vu in Torah, that's a vu in Igris. Find a letter, something in Igris that the Rebbe speaks about this topic, even if it's not exactly connected to this. In your mind, you tell the Yerushalmi, wait a second. In your mind, you try to, and if you don't have anywhere, you tell them, let me get back to you. You look it up, ask somebody something, because we get better from the Shabbat. We can answer it from our own experience. Could be that's a good experience, but it's unser eigen. We're talking about somebody else. You can answer him from something that somebody once said. That's what it'll end up being. So darf doch sein von Torah. So, first of all, you have to tell him, okay, then you find something, a pasuk chumash, something. If it's not a Shaila and Halacha, it's a Shaila and Halacha, something, somewhere that you can base your answer off of. Then once you have an akudah, you can even, es ist sehr wichtig, für den jungen Mann zu wissen, für wann du es Tage genug. My father has a riches dike meise. When he came to Crown Heights, when he first came to Palo Alto, he was a shliach. He came to Palo Alto, and he had a very, very hard time. Famous meise tells us the story all the time. He came to Crown Heights. He came to Palo Alto, and it was very, very hard because the people there were very, very seichel dik and very, very cold. Yiddishkeit and whatever. So he had some connections, so people gave him a little bit of money, but it was very challenging. So when he came, one year he came for Pesach, he came to the Rebbe, and Shabbos Cholamoid Pesach. So the Rebbe Geret HaSiche, never spoke about Natzomas HaYiveshes. And the Rebbe said, that's a doa amol HaShliach, was gefindt sich in a Platz. And said, as da Atzomas Yiveshes. And it's not Yiveshes Moed. And so he doesn't know what to do. So the Rebbe says, what you should do is, Hinovi Aleim, Shimud Var Hashem. Tell them a posuk, tell them a word from Torah, tell them Fine. So my father went back. He felt that he went Eichidus. So he went back. I remember as a kid, I used to go with him. He used to take me on different times to different videos, to different people. Always. This reminds me of something to do with this week's Parsha. And somehow he always connected it at Zigzagta Advar Teir. Somehow, yeah, connected, not connected, Advar Teir at Megizot, of the Parsha. And my father says that Pashit, it changed the whole town, it changed the whole city. People, with Lechatchila, he speaks about somebody specific, when he came in and the person wasn't interested and whatever, and then all of a sudden that's chongi war to gelegt film. It mamish that gemacht am apegen. But there are a lot of very edele shayos that get asked, and we have to dive into the Eibush to say that Shloimar. I once saw there was a Yid, Gedalia Hertz, Zayden, and every time before he said a shir, so they saw him, his lips were moving. So then they went to listen to what he was saying. He would say a kapitel Tilim Pashat, and the shir zal sein mechuven lamitosa shalter. So if Bechlal, I'm with a younger man, you're speaking to somebody, that follow him betten, because it's it really is. But you have to answer. You have to dafrein based on was kommt aus. I mean, you have to understand the situation and try to answer based on the situation. But if you could always bring in a word from Torah, something, where do you get this from? And Nekuda, help him see it from the Eigen von Chassidus. If somebody asks a shaila that's clearly, sometimes somebody asks you a shaila about a certain Indian Shalom or a certain Indian in his own life. And the answer is very simple, because based on the Sikhs and based on the Rebbe says it, there's no shaila here. This is Azay Dazayin and Fartik. Again, we're not talking about Rabbanu Shashayla. Rabbanu Shashayla is not Rabbanu. So, but if we can, you can either give him the answer. So you tell him the answer, or you can tell him like this: Chassidus steht, Asedo, normally don't say Asedo. So based on that, it's kach v'kach, right? And then you explain it to him. Was hast du aufgetan? Hast entwickelt, you opened his mind to see. Sein Leben is Musad of Chassidus. That his life. So even though what he needs is the simple answer, but if you can explain it to him based on what it says of Chassidus and tell him where you're getting the answer from, first of all, he'll have more derech eretz for you. That's the mitzvah. It's kedai mit pashat mitzvah zach. In Bered Herod comes from Torah, because it's very, especially when it comes to these kinds of things, he's always going to ask the question: where do you know this from? Where do you know? How do you know? Okay, because so hopefully he has enough trust and enough derech eretz and enough bittul to say, this is what my chassan teacher told me. But if nicht fragt, it's da zweite Stube, was fragt, who says? So if se da an a kude from Torah, there's something that as they state in Chassidus, it gives a lot more, both things. Side derech eretz for the chassan teacher, because the Moishe learned from Torah. But it also trains the makabel that you have to find the answer in Chassidus. Because again, a younger man will sein gut, but his life does not use up Chassidus. It's very difficult for a lot of younger light to translate Chassidus in a simple way. Befrat noch a chassan. So if you can be masber to him, his situation, bring a letter to the Rebbe, bring a Chassidus, something, hast du meist gelernt, als in Chassidus steht seine Azach. Based on Chassidus, that's how you, it's a chinuch, it's a chaim. Look, as is every single neshama. I was just by a ufluf today, and somebody was chazering that the Rebbe, there was a Maisa, the Yid who went to Detroit. I don't remember why. He was in Detroit and he met a Yid, went into a butcher. I don't know exactly the story. He met a Yid, and the Yid, he was speaking to him, and the Yid, he asked the Yid if he would put on film. The Yid told him that he put on film. Oh, he asked him if he put on film. He said yes, and he put on film with him. And he can't tell you. He knew it on his own. So he said, "What's the mice?" He said he put on film when you come from a house. He put on film when he was 13 to 18, and then he stopped. So this Yid was spider. So he tells him, "If I get you a pair of film, would you put on film every day?" So he said, "You get me a pair of film? Yeah." Okay. So then he went back and he writes to the Rebbe a whole letter. Part of it was he was writing as the Einiklach Kumen. He was having his Einiklach coming for Shabbos or something, and he's describing the whole matzah that's going to be and the Einiklach Kumen and whatever. So the Rebbe wrote back to him like this. So he wrote to the Rebbe that the next time he goes to Detroit, which was going to be a little while later, he would bring with him a pair of film. So the Rebbe says, "Ayid zok dir." I say, "It's great, legen film." And you're going to wait till the next time you go to Detroit. The Rebbe says, "Mit avzen as morgen bis de shkier." I guess he wrote it in the night. Morgen bis de shkier, soll haben a part film. And the Rebbe says like this. Obviously, the Kinder kommen zusammen and the Nachas von the Kinder is a wichtige Sache. That's very important. It's a good thing. But if there's no other choice, does of them can we mevater sein. The Rikir is haben a part film for the shkier. So I didn't hear all the details, but anyway, he went and he couldn't. It was hard for him to find a pair of film because. Anyway, he managed to get Baruch Hashem a pair of tefillin, and then he sent it there, whole thing, and then it was snowing, so it was traffic, and he was not going to get there by Shkia time, so he got out of his car, and he ran. And you come in, so this Yid fired the Shkia legen tefillin with him. Okay, so the Rebbe wants us to look at every single bocher as a neshama, as a bayis b'Yisrael. Mitzias is that when a bocher comes to ask, Bocher comes to sit. It's the one area where you see by Nalta Bocher as a Kumta Rein Bebitl. Mamash Bebitl. He's ready to hear anything. Because he knows he doesn't know. So in all the other things could be as a Retten sein Mashpia, Retten sein Aselach Harav, it could be Yachin versteht schon allein. Wie zu lernen Gemara versteht schon allein. Wie zu lernen, wenn man sich sieht, das redt sein, sie nicht weiß schon. Sie geht sein Azay, sie Azay, das weiß schon. The one thing he doesn't know is this is a whole new Nekudah. And he's ready to take anything. So if every person this is their whole nekudah, so then the few hours that we have with him, it's like can I be full McKen? Again, not just about the halacha and this and that, but was haste. You think about it like this: was haste a younger man 5 years after his wedding. 10 years after his wedding, sitting at home. So if he heard from his husband teacher, as when we come to him, Shabbos, I'll tell you a ma'ase, shohaya. I'll tell you a ma'ase, shohaya, chaim b'chaim.
Hi.
Baruch Hashem, die Yidden leben noch. A younger man once came, right after he got married. Him and his wife. So she tells me that he doesn't want to sit by the head of the table. It bothers her. He doesn't want to sit by the head of the table. Okay? Gefragt for us, he says because as a bocher, it's a chalom always gelernt. There is a bottle to keep. Why do you have to sit at the head? But it's not for Zeit. Okay. Sie können sehen, a schöne der Herr, a Bocher. Sit a Bocher. I don't know if it came from such a healthy place. It came from other things, but it doesn't matter. Nekudas Advarim is, he didn't want to sit by the head of the table. Fine. So, what's the answer? The answer is she's right. I mean, you have to sit, bist du der Balabos. Darfst du sein am Balabos, hast du untergenommen der Achrai, bist du am Balabos. Das wird der Ewig gemacht. And other, a man the Futter said, Kuti told me the story. He says when he was a bocher, so he was a mashpia in Benoit. He was a bocher mashpia in Benoit, and he didn't want to verbring. He didn't feel like as a mashpia. He didn't want to verbring the bocher. So whenever they used to ask him to verbring, he said, "You know what? When we come to Kranais, we come to 770. But Msal is I am a verbring. But I am a mashpia." So when he came to 770, he was Masader with Mendel Futavas. Mendel Futavas of Fabri. Okay, so he came. But he didn't want to be the unfair, so he sat zwischen the Bochum. But the Bochum were like giving him derech eretz. So Rabbi Futafas saw what was happening. Rabbi Futafas first, he had the mind gesagt. Er sagt, bist du Maschpia, das ist bist du Maschpia. Der Hebst der Yom Koyach, what do you think? Der Betrieb to the Teve. Hashem Tzadi Gever, bist du Maschpia, der Hebst der eigentlich der Mann, you have to be a Maschpia. Fine. Then Rabbi Futafas told him, he says, you should know, when I first became a Maschpia, I couldn't stand the word. He says, today, if they don't call me a Mashpia, werde ich verchetet. So he says, garnish, that was his word. But the Kudus Hadvarim is that a tate zechazi, right, a younger man, he doesn't want to sit at the head of the table. A few years down the line, was this the same plot. But anyway, the Kudus Hadvarim is a younger man, right? A younger man, everyone sits by the head of the table. V'chulu, v'chulu. If again, so the answer is that I'm just bringing an example from what's Makirat frame. So the answer is she's right. You have to sit by the head of the table. Okay, again, I'll get past the answer, right? But it's an opportunity because if he's asking you, "Can the Masber sein, was ein Schlichus ist, was ein Tafkid ist, the schus that he has, the geschmack that he has," he can sit by his table at the head of the table and recognize as alle Kinderlach was sitzen an the Tisch, sein Früh mit the Kinderlach, seine Seiner. And every word that he lives with can be his. It's a hemshech of his. Not only, of course, okay, you have to sit by the head of the table. Okay, beseder mit der Sitzung mit Kabbalah. Or, if you're, das ist dein Möglichkeit, der Hebste der Hela Möglichkeit. Und du kennst, ein Wegstall nach Chassidische Besprochen. You could make this house Adira B'Tachteni. You can come after Fabrengen, Shabbos nach Mittag, on Ibrahim, etc., etc., or whatever, every person based on who they are. But it's a Möglichkeit zu verbringen und aufbauen der Sache. But look, and then it comes to especially, and I'll tell you like this.
It can sagen in practice ISIS.
No.
A shliach, a news reporter comes over to him, in fact, what do you say about this matzah? This news reporter has an agenda, and he's going to quote you on whatever he wants. Was tut der Shliach? You have to know, ich bin in Stadt, zum Mefarsim sein, whatever, Torah mitzvahs. You say, listen, we are here in town for that. You give a drasha about whatever you want, what you came in for. And b'meila, the whole question, der Chagav, you could at the end relate to it. That's a different time. That's done in the political world. That's a different time. And al derech zeh, when a young man calls you, you have to call a shot in a second. If that friend sein shaila, what does he really need to hear? And it's a scary, it's a cherech chad v'nachas. But once he's on the phone and he's calling you, it already took him so much nerve to get all the way to that point. It's shikul adas, but in those minutes you have to call a shot, and like the Rav is saying, connecting him to Torah, saying, "Oh, it's the Gavaldik Shaila," and then deciding what he really needs to hear. In addition to it's a skill to develop, and it's also a huge achrayas. But I'm saying this.
Well,
just got the train of thought.
No, I'm just. It's amazing. Macht nicht. The Kudus Advarim is das ist wie gewollt sagen. Okay, das ist schon so später in der Verbringen. The future is now, right? Okay, that was no, because the truth is, this is a tutveya, it's a tutveya subject, but it's an important one. I'll tell you a little bit of a tutveya subject.
I must have called a reverse meal. That is in the Boy Scouts. Right? First dessert, then the backwards.
Look, we're talking about nobody practice get it. You're talking about younger light. I'll tell you, I'll start with a Maisa. I met a Yid, a Polish Yid, in Muncie. He was described to Chassidus. So I asked him, how did it start? Was it gebracht to Chassidus? So he came to talk about a Bocher, he was trying to help out a Bocher. So he tells me like this, he says, I'll tell you how I became, how all about Chassidus. He says he was a very earnest Chassidish Bocher. As a Bocher, he was a very earnest Polish Chassidish Bocher. He learned. By them, they didn't learn any Chassidus. Not Nigler, but it's sehr good gelernt. But mit gekocht sich hier Shammai. So he was a very earnest Bocher, a very earnest person. Okay. So the Kitzer, so you come in zu sein Chassene. Und hat Chassene gehabt. Du, was hat mit Madrig gewinnt? Ungechsiedes wird mit Madrig gewinnt. Whatever. Mit der Madrig gewinnt, so da Witzes, da Sachen, mit Afton. Die gerät, wie mir redt dort, whatever that is. He says he had a really, really, really hard time. I partially verstanden. He was a Chassidish Bocher, he was gehit der Egen, he was very careful. He was very, very careful. He was a Chassidish man. And all of a sudden, he didn't know how to deal with it. That Pashat nicht gewusst. So, mit Tzadech besorgte Medarf, mit Tzadcheni, Mamish didn't know how to deal with it. And it was very painful. It was a very, very painful topic for him. He came once into a Verbringen von Tzemach Tzedek. Tzemach Tzedek Yerushalayim. Der war Schkedel. Deutsch. Hat verbracht. And he had verbracht, it was a Yom Tov, it was a Chassidish Yom Tov, maybe he had a skizl of something, he came, and he had geredet mit Xveres HaYisoid. Die Ingen von Yisoid, Kenira hat verstanden, wenn man redet, hat geteilt, der Ingen von Yisoid. He says, jene verbringen, hat Meshanek wenn mehr. Das Pasha geht von der Ingen. Das sagt, was ist Yisoid, his kashrus. He didn't get into the details, but he said that he had verstanden, as liegt der Epes. Liegt der Epes a hechere Sache. A Bocher one time told me that he came to the Maskona that he doesn't have to learn Reishis Chochmah. Because it's not practical anyway. What is he going to do with Reishis Chochmah? You're talking about Yud K, Vov K, Yud K, Vov K, Yud is the Tate and Hey is the Mama and that's the Kinder. What's he supposed to do with it? So he's going to learn, he's not going to learn Reishis Chochmah. Whatever. The Rebbe sagt, das ist a Chana von der Chasana, für die Mitzvah, Keseder. It's a very, very difficult, right? We all, das ist wegen dem, was, it's the thing that a Chosn teacher has the Chayes for, right? To teach the younger man. B'derech HaTara, b'derech HaKedusha, needs to Chasna haben. This younger man is going to, besides for all the Naya Zachen in the Welt, right? We learn Perek Tezvov, Tavis Achille. And after, if we then went to a younger man, he has a stomach issue. So the month, and the Rebbe one time told somebody, he said he was sick and he had a stomach issue and this and that. The Rebbe said, "Was hast du noch? Trying gesinte." Es kommt zu mir auf mit Zabocher. Hast du noch Mr. So da Perek Tezvov. You know Achille, right? So that's with Chile and Tori Chaim al Tzavore and there's all kinds of different topics that come into when a person's having chasana, right? It's not just that's another nekuda. Chasana teacher has the achray. It's not just for the halachis for the needed. We're talking about a young man who's taking on a whole new world of a But when it comes to this, we all know, wie viel der Sach ist oder der teuerste, heiligste Sach. Oder es ist eine Sach, was ist der gröbste Sach, was kann fast vergräben an Menschen, was kann man herabschleppen. I'll tell you, guck, wenn es so ein Verbringen, da verbringen offen, right? So, ein junger Mann hat mir einmal gesagt. Ich sage, er ist ein feiner junger Mann. He told me that a lot of his Chaverim, Pasha, don't keep Achokas. That's all I'm I tell you, ich sage früher, Beta Maschpia, Moment, wir gehen in Gdamen. Why? But I mean, mit Kahidos, mit Jens, mit Achelik von dem, ja, Achelik von dem nicht. Why? Where does that start from? So you have Jungelite who always had a Yitzhahara. Okay. And Amal Junger man is what you're Shamayim. Because we all know when it comes to Kabbalah Sale, when it comes to halacha, when it comes to difficult things, there needs to be a chayis in it. You can't do it just because you have to. So geht nicht. Heint hat mir a Bocher gesagt, that he saw, that he had gesehen, a sach siches, ein der Herr von der Geras HaTshuva ist, HaTshuva wird man nicht kennen, Tom von Kabbalah Sel. He was reading the siches. The Rebbe speaks about the Geras HaTshuva. So he's angekommen dort nechet, von seinem Matolle und das. So he said, bei ihm kommt aus, and the Rebbe sagt, and we can't Tshuva Tom nor von Kabbalah Sel. Because why? Because Aveira is verbunden mit Tainuk. Und Tshuva, darf man Tshuva Tom mit euch Tainuk lichet. You can't do Tshuva von Kabbalah Sel. So you're talking about a person who's going to have, you have to remember, you're talking about a younger bocheru. Again, you're talking about a tzaddik, a chassidische younger man, who's not chasene. So he's a chassidische younger man. But you're talking about a pashto younger man. It's going to be, let's say, it might be challenging for him. You never know. I mean, this is talking about, who knows what his life is going to be like. Und du sagst, noch ein halb von der paar Volk, right? You don't even see the other half. Who knows was tut sich dort? So du darfst da rein, it's not just that you're teaching him, du, deine Schus, und hopefully, die Möglichkeit ist, zu einbacken bei der jungen Mann, das berät man da in Jonim, was eine Negea benefosches Mamash. So it's not just that we're telling the Bocher how you have to behave, it's also wie, und mit welcher Koyach, und mit welcher Chais, und mit welcher Lebendigkeit. Oh, nein. Mit welcher Lebendigkeit. So if a Bocher knows, as the ganze Sache ist eigentlich, the whole thing, as a befehlers darf lernen in Rishis Chach. Du verstehst nicht alles, versteht dort. Okay, you don't understand, Yud, K, Vov, K. Aber eine Sache verstehst du ja, du bist ein Stück Leberste. Right? It's not a Gashmistic Pule, man redt wegen einer Ruchnistic Linie. And because man redt wegen einer Ruchnistic Linie, it's important, wer weiß doch, darf trachten wegen Reben, darf trachten, darf verhalten dort. It's not just that we're teaching him properly. But is eine Shome. When it comes down to the details, when it comes down to Poel Mamish, if you know, I was learned yet. I was learning Hilchos Neder. So it says in Kuf Tzadik Beis. It says, so I said that I made it because I made it. It says like this. Dot na machlekes. So it's dot dam psulim, right? So dam psulim. Sorry, dam chimut. So that's why she has to wait 7 days before. It's a dam chimut. So it says like this. It says that a Talmud Chochem meg chasna haben, right? A Talmud Chochem leut die Shittas meg chasna haben und später warten und darf nicht sein 7 Tage, right? Das steht dort. So in Beis Yosef schreibt, leut der Rambam. La Halacha ist nicht das, leut der Rambam. So Beis Yosef writes, what's the difference? Was hab's a Talmud Chochem nicht geht Talmud Chochem? So he says, because Shloimar, as a Talmud Chochem, so first he says that Talmud Chacham know that it's Osir. Okay, but then, so Goizah Gamor, it's Osir. If the point is that you should know, so tell him that it's Osir. He says, no, he says because it's Azaz Sofik. It's in Stocken Dam, it's Dam Chimut. So there's no Dam. And it's yet Beide given, and there's nothing there. Nevertheless, it's Adar Sofik. So if you come to a Talmud Chacham and you tell him, as a Chacham, gazing when it's Adar Sofik, he'll accept it. I'll take it for okay, as ich steht. You come to an Amoretz and you tell him, Chacham, am Gezer gewinnt zu lieber. It's too much. So da a Sofik, and sie hat beide gewinnt, sie nicht doch gar nicht. Gzeres, Chachamim, it's too much for him. He's going to say, es kann nicht sein. Geht es nicht mit Kabel sein. So, die zweite Loschen ist, dass Talmud Chacham weiß, was Gzeres Chachamim ist Bechlal, wie die Chacham arbeiten, Gzeres Chacham arbeiten allemal. So I'll accept it. But it's also important to give over to this younger man a chayis and a lebedigkeit in the halachas, right? It's not just the halachas. It's a chayis and a lebedigkeit as tut a getliche Sachs, a getliche Pole. Und the ganze Room von dem is a getliche Linie. Atzolas nefoshes shebazeh, I think is right. It's clear. It's doch nicht kein Shaila bechlal. L'chaim, l'chaim. Huh? Ich habe mal gehört. Okay, lass uns sehen, was ist. Whatever, again, when you speak to anybody, in any Seder Achai, and you look at him, and he doesn't seem like, when he tells you what his life is, and was tutzach by him, and he doesn't he doesn't look like how Tachayis, how Talibadikait, and Dak Yachsidis in Yiddishkeit. He's here because he has to, because he understands that there's sof, Fort Yerushalayim Hotel. The Metzias Hadvarim is as Libam Erha. As long as Mezokzi the Emes. If you can take any person. I can't even tell you how many times you speak to somebody who looks the Chitzenis like Mamish, like a Nishtan Tasir. And you'll fabrate with him. Fabrate with him bariches about a topic. And because you're talking about somebody, you're talking to somebody versus a bissel, looks like a little more Nishtan. So you'll try to translate it a little bit. From was wird spol werden? Wird spol von der Gettlichkeit. You'll ask him, he'll be in a spol, he'll tell you, was hat gehört, der ein Wort, das angelegt, das kelachayad, that's what he takes. But see, is, wir davon glauben, we really have to have bitochen. And believe, at the Rebbe was geschickt daher, and every shlichus that we have is because we're dealing with the shamas. Just like, there was a C-team, Shabbaton. Just like you're looking at people with long hair and this and that, you can't look at that, you have to look at the neshama shabbat. Same thing is with every person that we're dealing with. We could never look at a person as this chitzenis. We have to look at him like a neshama. And if we look at him like a neshama, we want him, so obviously it depends on the situation, but we want him to have as much as possible. Because you're talking about a yid who's open, who's interested in hearing. And the Metzias Advorim is, when you take a bocher, or you got chosn, and you fabreng with him about, in a Chassidish Sprach, well, obviously in his language, but how many times does it happen? I think we all must have stories like this. How many times does it happen that you're questioning if you should say something specific? Should you tell him this nakudah? And then daf kedosot ashpo. Because they're here to sue. Our goal isn't to be a chosn teacher. Anybody isn't a balabos. We don't have what to give them. If we're there, it's that behind Hashem, it's Adegeva, the Ebershtot uns gelegt, the Achroim, to make sure to be the people there that they should listen to. The Ebershter will say Islam. The Rebbe wants them to know certain things. And because the Rebbe feared durch die Shluchim and durch die Chassidim, so the Rebbe set it up that there should be certain people who should have that achrayis. Why? Because Hashem is Adegeva. I once heard unser Mashpia to sagen that you think that to be a Mashpia, the reason why you're a Mashpia is because you're a Chassidish Yid. It's not true. The reason why you're a Mashpia is because of the Rebbe is the Machlet. If it's not a Chassidish Yid, it'll help you. It'll make it easier. But the reason why you're a Mashpia is not because you're a Chassidish Yid. The reason why you're a Mashpia is because that's what they wish to decide. So the same thing, a Chosn teacher, the reason why you're a Chosn teacher is because they wish to Machlet. They wish to get certain neshamas. Why these neshamas came to, we heard from Rabbi Chaikin before. Not everybody's going to like you. The reason why certain people come to you is because that's neshamas, and neshamazach. So if there's a neshamazach, so be'emes, our shlichus is only to give them what the Rebbe wants to give them. You look into the Igris. You look into they just put out a book about intermarriage, right? The Rebbe's an intermarriage. So I was speaking to the Bocher before he put out the book. Speaking to so he was telling me one of the things he was very spoiled from. Because one of the things he was very spoiled from when he was putting together the book. Right? There came out a book of the Rebbe's Shita on. He says he was very spoiled. Everybody speaks about intermarriage in a certain way. The kids are not going to be Jewish, and this and that. He says the Rebbe doesn't mention that. The Rebbe mentions the fact that it's not going to be good for you begashmis. Very interesting. He says he saw this everywhere. The Rebbe says it doesn't work. A shidduch that's made shidduch. A chasana that's not a yid with a goya, or the other way around.
And for her also.
What?
For her also, yeah. For her also.
You're right.
The guy carried.
Right. That's the nekuda. He was very spoiled from that nekuda. But unser Inyan is, you see the Rebbe read. Unser Inyan is given the Rebbe's sprach, the Rebbe's inyanim, whatever the Rebbe says. So we don't have to judge necessarily. You're sitting with a young man, and you see where they're sitting with a bocher, and the bocher is clearly, not of the hechster ramah. It's not our job to decide. So which things should we tell him? Which things shouldn't we tell him? Which things? Listen, we have to give. Obviously, we have to try to connect to him. We have to try to give him the sense that we care about him. We have to try to give him the sense that he can ask any question he wants, and we'll answer him based on his level, based on the way he asks the question. But our goal is that by the time he leaves by us, he has everything. Everything that owns. He has everything that Rebbe tells him. Because this is the Rebbe's Akin. Why is he by us? Who knows? So he's by us because we're supposed to be the ones to tell him. And it's talking, I mean, this is nefashos. So we don't have to be, we don't have to made him to tell the younger man the emes lamitose, and to tell him the nekudas advorim, tell him how, you know, the Merste Chumres and the Merste, you know, there's somebody recently told me like this. I was in Pomona, somebody told me that there was a younger man who was a younger man who said he was a younger man on a board. And this younger man told him a certain thing, doesn't matter exactly what it was, but a certain thing. And he was so nispol because Poshik said, Gimont Mesiras Nefesh from this younger man. Poshik demanded Mesiras Nefesh from him. It was very challenging. And he was thinking to himself, how many Chassidish Jungerleit would be able to say the same thing? It was something very challenging. It was something very challenging. And the younger man on board. And I'd gehalten. And he was so nispol, he said, you know, Al Tabita Marev, basically. In this Indian is am schwer, a younger man, a bocher, will, we have to recognize, you know, one from the erste, you say this in Tanya is, we get used to looking at a person and judging him based on his anhaga. Is he a Chassidish bocher? Is he nicht Chassidish bocher? Is he shaykh to this? Is he shaykh to that? The truth is, the Alter Rebbe stellt da weg. Da Yetzer Tov, da Yetzer Hara. Everybody has a Yetzer Tov and a Yetzer Hara. Just because, you know, we get a wall from Simon, somebody tells you, all Yidden sind Ganov. Why? Because the Daf from Arid was a Ganov. He does this and that. What's the answer? And the thing is, the Nishvug. Ist doch in Shulchan Aruch, it was a Chalokim. Achelek min Odom Lamokim, Achelek min Odom Lachaverim. So the same Yisoid, you tell somebody, just because somebody has a Yitzhak Hore, doesn't mean hat nicht kein Nefesh Likis. Hat doch ein Nefesh Likis. Und doch Araya will sein Achosid. So mehr darf reden zu sein Nefesh Likis. Tell him, ist der Achosid, also ich führt sich Achosid. It's a heilige Sach. Every man who goes out of any Labalat Shechosin teacher has to know, it's not about the whole. It's not about was man meg, was man tarnisht. The ganze Welt redt in Yiddishkeit, was man meg, was man tarnisht. See this is, and da wissen seine tut eine heilige Sache. A Shliach. It's Poshet a Shliach. A gate bringing Getlichkeit allein Adomus. Da Shlichus. Where does Shlichus start from? You take a Daladamis, you make it a Daka, you make it a Chassidish Shtuk. And then you go out to the Welt, and it's a hemshech of your own home. Right? That's why you have Shana Yesheni, you have Kelo, you have with your own family. And then eventually, whatever your shlichus is, you go and you have impact on other people. But it starts every Lubavitch Yigban, no matter what his matzav is, no matter what he looks like, has to know, as in them, da steht, the shlichus from the Mebersten, to bring in Getlichkeit al Adomus. But, okay, l'chaim. Let's say like this. In Yeshivas Tem Chetzminin, we learned always tracht nach Wort Chassidus. Right? Why do you teach the person to do Avat Chassidus? Because you want him to not only learn, but also to think about that which he's learning and to know that it's emes. My younger man, who was not chasana, and he knows that this nekuda, he knows that the mitzvah is a hele kazach. Tznius is a hele kazach. It's going to impact him, seine Deires, seine Kindskinder. So, the Sprach was benutzt, we don't have to be, again, same nekuda, we don't have to be scared of using Helika Isis, no matter who the Bocher is. And I'll tell you again, you have Bocherim who call. And whatever they're going through. And you try to, so you have to connect to them. First of all, we all know this. The first thing is connection. First thing is that the mensch is wichtig. A person is pushing negeya. Somebody one time told me, I don't know if this is true or not, but I think this is a very, very important point. Somebody one time, there was once a conversation, I'm not going to get into the details because it's a nekuda, because it doesn't matter. It's unser gerät. But there was once a discussion, a few younger like were talking about the whole concept of if a person has a difficult time, should go to therapy, this and that, the other thing, whatever. So your man was saying that he doesn't see, by you look into the Igris, you don't see the Rebbe's therapy. You find etliche brief. The Rebbe says you should go to therapy. Normally the Rebbe says bitochen and amunah and you know bitochen and rebishn. So I don't know the answer to the question. I'm not getting into the answer to the question. But you have to realize one thing. The very fact that this person sat down and wrote a letter to the Rebbe and got an answer in the mail from the Lubavitcher Rebbe, who is in Brooklyn, who's very busy, was hat a ganze Welt, was is a Rebbe, that the Rebbe should sit down and write to him a specific answer is Elamum Loye. So get into whether you have to, what your answer has to be. The Rebbe hat him bavi, just in that. When Ayid went by dollars, the Rebbe cooked him the Aiden. Just that itself, who knows how much that is? Which today is very hard to find. But I'm just saying, Nekuda is, this Yid wrote to the Rebbe, and the Rebbe answered him. What the Rebbe said is the next shlav. The first Nekuda is the Rebbe Tamongi cooked. And it's very tepes. So the first Nekuda is that Rabbi Chaikin was mentioning, but it's that whatever that a younger man has to feel like he's asking a question, his question is important. That is wichtig. That is negea. But then what you tell him, what we tell him, no matter what the Bocher looks like, we have to tell him, we have an achrais, we have to tell him what the Rebbe says. We have to tell him about bitochen, we have to tell him about the emes, we have to tell him about bittul, and we have to tell him about kedusha. And you never know which word get poils on it. You never know. Welche word, welche zach, welche nekude, welche Chaim.
Also, you have hangs out just those details. Sometimes you need to send, it happens, you need to send a young man to therapy. I think the approach has to be the same like to any doctor. When you ship him to a doctor, it's not a stira. It's not only not a stira, the motivation that he's going to have and it's going to make the work he's going to do with this doctor successful is the kapos are hot in Boyd Color London. The way he's going to dive, and that's going to make it successful. And we need to be able to convey that. Sometimes, like that, there's such a amount of by mashpiyim in regards to Stam Bachram. Kolshkin, when we're talking about marriage, when a young man said, mashpiyah says, listen, I have to send him to therapy, I Echadish Matzliach given. So that's it. So now he's not in the Rosh Hashanah. He's not leaving. He's not going to Torah de Preda. We have to tell him we're going to give you tools. This is a time that you have to be in touch with me more about the Chayes Shebizah. Sometimes we make this mistake. I include myself also. I'm saying sometimes you feel like you're sending him on to therapy and Yenet Matzliach Zayin Mer because you weren't Matzliach. That doesn't. First of all, the fact that he needs technical help and scientific help with methods that have been tried and tested and will be Matzliach. That's not only not a stira. He needs your oir in those kalim 10 times more, and it's a gesundter reminder we all have to have. No zog, zicher kolshkin if our yachas, like the Rebbe was saying, is half of the therapy already. The emulator is a nish to Rebbe's, but Shem it's menu, the Rebbe demands of us.
The image of the very fact that the man has Eden is Dafke, those who go to therapy will not Eden matter. They will the mashpia matter. But
problems then. With a problem. One of the problems, and I'm not sure how to one of the problems I find saying that in all tchum of hashpa is the fact that when they go to therapy they pay. Not pshat that they take it more ernst. The eitza is a tifra eitza in their life because they invested. The mashpia they're very easy coming back and saying with the garnish gitan you give a eitza. And he's calling back just for support and just to drag out when he's paying for the minute. So I don't know what's the solution to them.
I think, look, it's a very different. The kude, where mashpia dafton was a therapist, dafton is sehr anders. I think the kude is a very. No. Chaim. You're asking the question. I think that. First of all, a cloud godel that was Malen Zayers. But that's very, 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 very important. Nobody's going to ever be makabel what you said if you didn't fully listen to them from the beginning to the end. Because biz meherta is business of, and by Emekop you didn't hear him. Stam, a cloud godel. Once you heard him completely, doesn't matter what it was, he feels like not only that. If you hear him completely, what is unser tafkid? Our job isn't to run his life. Just because you're mashpia doesn't mean that you have reshus to run other people's lives. Our job is never to run another person's life. Our job is to help that person run his own life. Right? That's our job. Und unsere Arbeit ist, zu ihm helfen, sein Nefshlikis. Zu reden, he has the Nefshlikis, he has the Nefshabamis, he has the Yitzhatev Yitzhahara. He has the Yitzhahara, the Reita Makol. And our job is to help him speak the Sprach of his Nefshlikis. So two things. Number one, it's a Metzias also. We can't answer him the Sprach of the Nefshlikis if we didn't hear him fully, because we're going to answer our Nefshlikis, hopefully. Not our Nefshabamis, our Nefshlikis. Hopefully we'll tell him, if somebody calls us up, and the problem is, especially if we don't have any time, right? Somebody calls you up, and you don't have any time to answer, so you say, Rei, or this is what the Rebbe says and finished. It's the extra Zach in the Welt. Better tell him, call me back a different time. Why? For two reasons. Number one, because he doesn't feel heard. He doesn't feel like you answered him. You told him something. You'll tell him the same thing after he finishes everything he said. Number one. Number two, your answer might be different. If you hear from the beginning to the end and you really think about it, you come from his perspective, it really might be very, very, very different. Then there's an akuda where sometimes he knows the answer already. He's not calling you to ask you for a question, even though it seems like he's embarrassed to call you up and say, he himself doesn't realize that he knows the answer. He's calling you up just to say, I need a reminder. Either he doesn't know it, or it's too embarrassing to say, I need a reminder. So he calls you up and he asks you a question. But he doesn't have any questions. He knows the answer to the question. So you hear the question business of. And by that time he says, thank you so much. So you tell him, weißt doch, you chazer him a word for him, thank you so much, you give me such a good answer. If you tell him that 5 minutes before, he doesn't need your answer. Er darf haben a connection to the Eibishter. Er darf haben a iskashus mit noch Haiden. So you feel like you didn't do anything, because he called you up, and he let out his neshama, and all you did was, you started after giving him an answer. You had a whole answer, you were going to give him a whole Torah, and by the time you're halfway through, he says, Yasher Koyach, thank you so much, you helped me. He didn't need an answer. He needed the nakuda that he's connected to something. You represent something. You represent the person who taught him something. So when he wants to connect to that, he's going to call you and he's going to say, he's going to ask you a shayla. So it's mamish crucial. Listen to the end. Don't answer. Listen to the end. Ask him, is there anything else you want to say? When at ending, then tell him whatever it is, based on what he says, what the Rebbe says. But the nekudas advarim is on mezetas mamish lahafya. When you tell dafka the oisis harav, obviously larum giret. Oisis harav are poil much more than anything else. You're going to try to explain him al dov, al ho. I'm not saying you don't have to. You have to explain to him based on his sprach. But if you have the oisis harav in your head, and your goal is to tell him what the Rebbe says, if he calls you up and you know a letter that the Rebbe speaks about this, like we said before, you have to find the Inyan Torah that speaks about this. And then your whole goal is only to find, so if he doesn't understand in this language, okay, so you find different words to say it. But you find ways to express the Nakuda that the Rebbe said. It has Be'ein Arecha Berashpa. Be'ein Arecha. Because that's the emes. Then he'll tell you, then he'll go, and then you'll see clearly the difference between what you're giving him and what the therapist is giving him. And not only that, he'll appreciate a lot more what you're giving him. The therapist he needs to go to because he needs the practical whatever. But he'll recognize that what the therapist is giving is only practical. And what you're giving him is so much more. So the fact, like you said before, the fact that anybody's calling you on the phone, that itself is a big pull. You listen to him till the end, schön aggressive. Verbringst mit dem, was hat nicht zu tun mit was gesagt. Schön, hast schön aufgetan. And if you know the answer and you can take an answer, if you see that he has a shayla, you can take an answer. Most of the time, it's not really a shayla. Because how many times does a person who's calling you with a difficulty not know the answer? 99.9% of the time he knows the answer. Maybe not. Maybe 80% of the time. 80% of the time he knows the answer. So why is he calling you? Because he's not managing it by himself. He's trying to. So he's calling the person he remembers is the one that can reconnect him to the nakuda that he knows about. That's why he's calling. He doesn't need you to tell him answers. And adarabah, the biggest taiva you can do for him is not answer him. So you listen to him till the end and you say, "Nu, was sagst du?" And he gives you the answer. And then you add to it a little bit, or you say, "Yeah, und." Or you tell him, "Das doch, du weißt den schönen Empfer," and that's it. And he says goodbye. He says, "Yasher Koyach." So he asked the question, he gave the answer. But we all know what's made in Chovish Materas answer. The ganze, I was just thinking once, I was standing in 770. I mean, we don't know what's in his head. But ich stand mit alles in 12 spät. Es war nach Mittag, dachte sich, steht da, tracht sich. Ich tracht zu sich, where is the only place where the Eibishter steht bei his Gauss? Right, so we know there's a concept of a shul. Right, the Sicha letzte Woche, the Rebbe says that also the Mikdash is a shul. It's a shul. Okay, 770, the Rebbe's Daladamas. Fine. Wo das bei Isgalus? In a Yid's Kopf, wenn tracht sich. In his head. That's, in a person's head, that's where, but at the same time, in a person's head, because the Ayilum Kotten Zeh Adam, right? So you can have in a person's head all kinds of bullying that outside of his head make no sense. Absolutely no sense. It doesn't make any sense that he's struggling with these things. The answer is so clear. It's as they push it. Was mutschest du sich? Ich kann nicht verstehen. You're asking such silly things, but in your head it's a picture. But that's what Chavush means. In Chavush Matas, that's when he's going through something, whatever it is, and in his head, there's all these machshavas and these things. He's upset. He's this. He's frustrated. He doesn't know. He has a taiva. He's whatever. But in Chavush Matas, that's me. But he's in your man. I will turn good. He picks up the phone. He calls his whoever it is. The very fact that he speaks to you is already matter as that. But it's also another nekuda what the mental what you said before. It's also important for us to know what's not. I mean, I'm sure we spoke about this, but it's not what's not our role. We don't have to know all the answers. And we don't have to be therapists. We don't have to answer things that we don't know. The minute our Indian is Zog Chassidus, our Indian is Zog Torah, our Indian is Zog Kedusha. The minute that something comes to something that we don't know, we're allowed to say, this is meine Azach. It's important to say it. It's important to be honest and to recognize this is not something it's not my tchum. I'm not here for this. Clearly, this is something that either go to somebody who knows the answer. But first of all, again, like we said before about our Rav, but also even for Ashpa. It comes to Ashpa all the time. If somebody asks a question, my father once asked, he asked Rabbi Hiller when he went on Shlichus. So I get Emperor Shabbos and Halachi. So he asked Rabbi Hiller, which you know, Shabbos and Halacha. He says, what should I do? People ask me questions in Halacha. How am I going to answer? So Rabbi Hiller said that the way is the answer. If you know the answer, you'll answer, right? So the same thing in Hashpah. If you know the answer, you know that. But if you don't know the answer, it's okay. You don't know the answer. It's okay if you don't know the answer. I don't know. Again, like we talked about before, sometimes you have to shik him satzveita. Sometimes you have to find out the answer yourself. You say, I'll call you back. And again, it gives derech eretz for the. I heard once that who was it? So I don't remember. Somebody asked the Rebbe, he doesn't want to give Shiram Chassidus anymore. Because the Bochum are good Bochum with Lutekep, and they ask a lot of Shailas Chassidus. And his answer very, very often is, I don't know. He feels like you should try to give him Shiram Chassidus. So the Rebbe told him, it's doch gut as so they wissen, that the Magachir weiß nicht. As Chassidus is as a grace, as... So I said, no, well, if he sees, ich weiß nicht, I have to find out who you're asking. I'll ask an alter Chassid, I'll ask a Rav. Ask an alter Mashpia. It gives derech eretz. It's a ernst Zach. It's not a simple thing. You're going to have to ask somebody who knows the answer. Heint is an aveda mamish in safins. To sit and to listen to each person, and to listen to him, to connect to him, to think about him. Right? The Rebbe told him listen, and the Kirsch b'Shalmita darf sein wegen der Talmidim. It's a you know, it's a good Zach. You see somebody struggling. There's some questions. Sometimes the question is a question. Sometimes somebody calls you up and it's not a question. He's struggling. So no, we like that on the telephone. And Kirsch b'Shalmita tracht wegen der. Think about him for the day. Schlaf auf him. Figure something out. Call him back the next day. Noch Ogerut. But it's every person is a ilam moli mash. There's no klal. There's absolutely no klal. You can't give a klal. You give a klal generally, but you really can't give a klal. You have to really understand every person. You can speak to two people in the same day with the same shayla and have ilams. Ilams. You have to really try, like we were saying before. You have to stop. Somebody's calling you on the phone. It's a very big deal. It's not a simple thing to do, because we want to just. Okay, it's a shlichus. It's an aveda. We want to answer the phone or whatever it is. Speak to the chosin, tell him what to do, and give out. mit untergenommen Achrayis means that with untergenommen Achrayis von Hashemas. When a person calls you, it has to be. I'll tell you, till today, there's a few, a bocher who's upset. Why? Because he called me once, and I was, it was a very busy time. And I didn't want to answer his phone call, because I was busy. I was very, very busy. But he called a bunch of times. So I felt like, as a bocher, it's calling a lot of times, but still it's wichtig. So I answered the phone, but I told him he should be quick. And till today he's upset at me. Because it's nicht gewollt reden mit mir. He told me he should be quick. Und das hat gegeben werden, der Eberste soll ihm helfen, whatever, ich will nicht reden, but it hurt him, it really hurt him. So tiny maski. So it's a wichtige Linie. Man hat mentioned it's not in yonim. Talking about a person, right? And again, we're talking about a person calls you. Try another reason to listen to the end. Try to find out what's really going on. If you have the time, if you have the koyach, find out what's really going on. Ask him till the end. If he's going to continue talking, it's a good thing. Eret mit der Azach. Was noch? Hast noch etwas zu sagen? Was noch etwas zu sagen? Noch etwas zu sagen? Schlepp a race von him. Let him talk as much as he can. Find out what's really going on, because very often a young man will call you. Anybody, a bocher, anybody will call you, will speak to you, and he's testing it out. He wants to see, can he tell you what's really going on? So he tells you something. If you answer quickly, you hung up the phone, geendigt. If you ask him, was tut sich, so I'll tell you, this, and then I'll tell you this, and then tell you this, and then, or you hear in the way he's asking the question, doesn't make sense. Something, right? That also happens, right? Stell dich vor, a chsidische Geman, was du hast gelernt mit ihm, and you know that he's a chsidische Geman, and hast der Cheretz von ihm, and he's a good Geman, and he calls you up and he asks you a question that a chsidische Geman fragt nicht. It's something that doesn't make sense, or like a simple shaila that everybody should know the answer to. Why are you asking this question? Was tut sich? Can ich dir helfen? Is something going on? Is there something more there? It does. And again, like we told the story with a port film, it's the größte Nachas, the größte Simcha, was ken nor sein in a mention's Leben is as weißt that at a moment when somebody needed him, he was there. It's the größte Simcha that a person can ever have. It's more important than all the shiurim. It's more important than all the things, because shiurim, anybody who's interested in the shiurim will still find them. The fact that you can be connected to somebody, you can help somebody when he needs it, it's the größte Simcha in the world. But the Torah is nicht verpasst. So you have to have patience and recognize. Somebody calls on the phone. My father said once that he was sitting by a gvir, and this gvir, he noticed that the gvir was in a meeting, and he always answered the phone. Kept answering the phone, his cell phone. But most of the time he would say, the secretary would call in, would say, but certain. So the gvir told him, I don't remember the details, but the gvir told him, and the kinder rufen empfängt man. And he always was like he was in the middle of a meeting there. Called, and he listened. If it wasn't important, he would say, you know what, I'm in the middle of a meeting. But whenever the kinder am gerufen, he says, because many years ago, one of my kids told me, this is what the gvir told my father. Many years ago, I realized that I was in the middle of something and I was very busy. One of my kids told me that something to the effect, Mr. Chunzer Tate, and you don't have time for us. So I decided from then on, that's it, the kinder kommen erst. So he would listen to the kid. If the kid said no, so da in Teire, da etliche Sachen. There's learning about the Teire, there's Avetis HaTfile, there's Gmach, Milas Chasodim, how to help somebody else. We all know the concept. But mizet wieviel der Rebbe kocht sich hin. Zahid soll helfen an zweiter. The only way we're actually really going to help somebody else is if we're fully there. Fully there. Whatever happened till then, if you can't answer the phone, better not to answer the phone, like this story that I said before. Better not to answer the phone than to answer the phone and not have time. Don't answer the phone. Text them, I'm sorry, I'll call you back. Call them back when you have time. And listen, business off. Because it's neshamas, it's nefashos, it's yeah, l'chaim noch. L'chaim. That's not truly good. Das ist ja bis am Rand der Kita. Wo? So von der sagt man der Rebbe ist von Englisch. Ja, maar ich habe lang. Einmal lang, das ist also ich komme allein von Mathe der Heid und der Heid fragt von was, und ich will gerne verbringen, das ist mein Land. I was once here by Fabrengen, and it was like Mama's like 5 o'clock in the morning, and then was gesagt, no, jetzt nach vorne zurück, was ist das? Somebody told me, take out a glass of mash, geh rein, und so, du kommst jetzt von Sarsan in Fabrengen, und das wird sein die größte, die geschmackste Schicht Siddes, wie du es da wohl gehen. Kach habe es, I came in, it was 8 Davis, right after 8 Davis, it was like next day. Kommt jetzt von Sarsan, ich sag, mach ein, da hätte man das gedenkt, somebody reminded me. Das ist die geschmackste Schicht, but you, kinderlich. By the Rebbe's Fabrengen, you know, so it was like 12 o'clock, the Malam did nothing again, they used to give out I think we get, and the Maskirim used to say, it was a clock. Chodakova gives up.
Ich habe mich gehört, aber Mendel Feller, he knows, er hat mir gesagt, dass der Rebbe...
Sie gehen klar, bei der Rebbe's Fabrengen,
I think the Rebbe even...
Malam dem Schachtim, da vergehen 12 Säge. Und bleibt nicht später wie 12 Säge. You know, so you got wir sagt dafür Nisten. Also was once Shabbos noch Mittag, der hat einer Malamit hat stark verbracht. Nur sehr sach Maschke. And then was the Shabbos, he had a limud with the kinder. So he came in, but he was shikir. So he couldn't teach them. Hat verbracht, hat erzählt ein paar chassidische Nekunim, hat gesungen mit sie, whatever it was. He taught that he said some chassidische Meises. So er müssen dazu genommen der Maskeres von Achidisch. He says, Meise, du kommst herein, was ist da Achreis? So Anan Manan Abasrei, ich meine, for us this would be, was man gewähnt, weißt du, was man gar nicht gehabt. It wouldn't be 1 month, it would be every month. But, Nekudas Advar. Chavre, es ist Amerika gesagt, really, the größte Nachas that a person can have in Elam Hazeh is, years down the line, somebody calls you up and he says, you should know, was mir gesagt Azach, you didn't understand what you did then, you told me you thought you would. Was mir gesagt Azach, was mir gerat mit. You didn't even know what was going on. But I called you and you gave me a kluge wort, was mir gesagt, some Meise von ihm, ein was mir gerat mit die Kinder und die Kindskinder. And it doesn't, mit das ist was mir very sein. Da glauben davon bin tochen that every single bocher, every single one that comes to us can sein a chassid. The minute that we decide there's one, can it sein a chassid, hat man verloren die ganze Nekud. Because that's hepech achtus Hashem, it's hepech mitzvah, hepech haemes. We have to believe, okay, obviously the levush is the way we get to it. Every single bocher. What was it? Somebody just told me. It was a slightly different thing, but somebody just told me he was somewhat, one second. Somebody told him, and we were ready to listen. Somebody told me it wasn't about chassid, but somebody said that you had an opportunity because we came to you and we're actually ready to listen. So every single bocher, every single neshama, we have to, b'chlal, a madrich always has to look mamayla mata. You can't look at what you see. You have to see tifer. You have to see his neshama. You can't only respond to what he's telling you, right? You have to see his neshama. You have to have a goal for this person. Somebody walks into you, somebody calls you, what is your goal now with this person? Was willst du aufzumachen? Bocher kommt zu dir, setzt sich weg mit dir, du guckst auf ihn. What's your goal with this bocher? What do you want this bocher to come out knowing from you? Und unser Emes und Bitochen darf sein that this bocher could be Chassidische Rit. At least in this Indian that we're teaching him. Kann Chasna haben, Gesundterei, kann sein Erlach. Now, obviously, whatever his level he is, if he tells you, look, this is minus fairness, you have to tell him, look, this is Aikir, this is Atofel, this is Dosiyans. But your goal has to be, and B'Shas Ma'aseh V'Begem Zogna Filu. Look, this is what I'm telling you for now. But ich glaube dir, adu gezen achos. It was just a bringing before in some 70. So there was a bacher, was a gerät a bisschen negativ. We gerät wegen dem. There was a bacher who was coming and gemacht. So somebody gerät mit dem a bisschen a lichtige Sprache. Das ist eine Schlikis, das. So it's even a gerät wegen dem. Wie ist was die richtige Sache? So people were saying, I mentioned it's obnoxious, and he's coming and macht those stuff. I'm like, Claude, you're obnoxious. Macht sich danisch. Everybody tells him that. You think nobody? He tells himself that. The ganze Welt sagt ihm, you're obnoxious. Sagt sich allein, du hast eine Nefesh Bamas. Wer redet ihm die Sprache von der Nefesh Likis? Wer? Kommt sich chassidische Verbringen. Man sagt ein bisschen L'chaim. Da verreden die Sprache von Nefesh Likis. Eben nicht, wer geht reden die Sprache von Nefesh Likis. The ganze Welt, no matter who, I feel like the größte Tzadik geht auf den Gas, man sagt ihm, you're obnoxious. That's the Seder, right? Sich allein, weiß man doch alle. Als Keseder sagt man sich allein. Shachris ist offiziell als Mamas, man nur wegen dem Eberstein. Somehow, auf ein guter Tag tracht man wegen Nefesh Bamis, auf ein schwerer Tag tracht man wegen Nefesh Bamis. Allemal, ein guter Tag tracht man wegen Nefesh Bamis, ki ilu, wie Itzter, Dafke, B'Shas, wegen tracht wegen dem Shachris, geht ein Potter werden von ihm. Und wenn man nicht guter Tag tracht man, als der Balabos. Whatever it is, but man tracht wegen. Im mitten Tag, mitten Lernen, ist da. Überall ist da. Wo noch, gut von chassidische Verbringen, kann man sagen, aber es lachai, reden Sprache Nefesh Likis. Bist da Chossid, bist da hier, was der Scheich ist, der Meberschen, guckst nicht das? Ich glaube mit dir, du bist, nein, nicht wie du meinst, nicht was, du bist a Chossid. And I'm going to tell you how a Chossid behaves. And he's going to look at you, I'm going to tell you how a Chossid behaves. Du bist doch a Chossid. When begeht ihm sagen, nicht gechossid, then when is he going to hear it? His wife is going to tell it to him. Sagt, dass der Einzige, was weiß, der MC ihre Shemaim von einem German ist ein Frau. The Rebbe said about...
If she knows a favorite food.
Right. Der Rebbe gesagt wegen die Solneach. Also ist, kann beides sein auf ihm, also ist im Zimmer, Punkt wie ist in Dresden. Also, but der Einzige, was weiß, ist not the fruit. But wer geht ihm sagen? Der Frau geht ihm sagen, bist du a Chossid. Der Frau ist am Kabel. Der Frau will haben von ihm als Maschpiel. Whatever he's Maschpiel, that's what she's going to take. Darf sein, wer geht ihm sagen? Ihm darf ihm sagen, look, ich kann vor mir. Lass mal reden, Lacholapach ist einmal, Lacholapach sitzen zusammen, kommt da einer Bocherl, he heard all his Chosin classes. Okay, everything he learned. Geendigt, jetzt lass mal nehmen ein Glas L'chaim, come sit down, lass mal nehmen ein Glas L'chaim, jetzt lass mal verbringen.
Da sagen ich kenn, ich also der Mann, wenn ich mir nach Chosin, ich gegangen zu Rabbi Chaikin. Und sagt, allemal gemacht sicher, als es gewinnt dort nach Shabbos. Zwischen den Bachen hat man gerät, als will, ich will sagen von den Bachen Sachen, was will nicht mit recorden. Der Fahrer der Shabbos. Sie stoßen bei Wollen. Ist gesagt, gar nicht Shabbos, hat partiell gewissen, die Chassan, wie mir 40 bei Achsidischer Tisch. Wie, euch der Halacha von PCSA Pass, und die kommen die Sachen, was der Bacher partiell gewollt verbringen mit der Bacher. Und ich habe gefragt, Levi jetzt, der hat mir gesagt, dieselbe Sache. Die da sein dort in Shabbos, and they didn't talk anything mit getracht, als redt, eben vielleicht mal reden, als redt, sagt man, will nicht mehr so, die should record. Pashat verbringen mit der Bachrim und sie weisen die Jakros von der Zeit Al-Chassen, der sagt, ja.
Aber das ist eine Kunde, nimmst du aber auch zum Sof, das ist weg mit einer Gläselmaschke, so jetzt noch mal hin zu der Nacht, bis nach Chassen. Was der Scheich ist zu mir bestimmt, was der Schreck ist. Kann ich wissen. Nachher, heutige Zeiten befragt, die wir seine nicht der größte Chsidim, die das von einer zerbrochen hat, sie nichts von einer...
No, I'm going to bring bags. Everybody please take. Everything here has to go. I'm not touching this stuff after this again. Once I know bagels, please, take a thing of blueberry, the whole thing. Please.
Bring it to your shit. I think this is your phone. I guess it's his, right?
Yeah, it's mine. Once I let me bring.
Yeah. I can help you bring things up. I'm not being help. Can I give a bag of bagels to the game back once I know?
Mendel. der Mann, der meisten Gemara sagt, dass der Chacham haben gesagt, dass wir können nicht lernen, Shemeyate. Nachdem sagt die Gemara, wenn er meiste mit einer, was hat gelernt, hat gemeint, dass hat gemeint, als nicht halt gehabt, hat gelernt und wollte gucken und hat gechappet die Licht. Hat gesagt, dem Chacham, Amru, als man turns lernen nicht. Als Kilo der Chacham sind, ich bin gelernt.
Hallo? Ja, was machst du? Ja, Leben, was machst du? Na, es ist nicht zu spät, aber sitzt da mit anderen. Sitzt da mit anderen. Was rufen zurück später?
When are you flying?
Came here, just to
When are you flying? Tomorrow?
Nach einer halben Stunde.
Tomorrow morning?
Yeah.
When is he flying?
Okay,
Wenn fliegt er gerade allein getagt. Was ist mir gegeben? Also das Gesetz, noch Gesetz, nach Parashah, und so.
Das ist nicht, das ist nicht Lein, das ist
Das ist nicht Arbeit, das ist Vacation.
Das ist the vacation.
Yeah, so I remember a few things. It's funny, es ist richtig, ich denke, es ist das Sache, was Pashat, ich denke von als Chassen.
Like what?
This thing. Rabbi Chaikin hat uns gesagt, als mit Gret wegen Achakes, meine ich. Er hat gesagt, als es da kommen Achakes, ich kann verstehen, aber es da Sachen, Marshall, a hacker. Also da a hacker of the nicht wegen dem, I don't remember about what specific, it had to do with Dinner Achakes, but the es da kommen Sachen, was ein Mensch, ein Mann hat meinen...
Was ist denn das?
Was?